God. Hi. Welcome back to Splice Splatter, the film podcast presented by the Jean Cocteau Cinema in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where classic horror.
It's modern gore. We're diving in.
We are diving in. Al, I wanted to save it for the podcast.
Oh, no.
But I am operating on 3.5 hours of sleep last
God damn
night.
it.
Because, and the reason why is because I was...
So I can shame you on mic. You will be wrong.
Yes.
Shame, shame, shame.
Yeah. And the reason is because I was up watching your movie until 3:30 in the morning.
Oh,
so
that's a tough watch.
I had an extremely disorienting experience.
Oh,
I feel
yeah.
like I'm still in it.
It's yeah, the movies we're covering today, which we kind of
wild ride.
Yeah.
Wild ride. Better pairing than I thought it was going to
Same.
be. Yeah.
Y'all, I don't know if we said this to you guys, but
Well,
yeah.
I think what we said was that we knew it was going to be a weird pairing,
Yeah.
that neither of us had watched the other's film, but that
we did
we'd
say that.
seen this from... I'd found it on Letterboxd recommendations of like, if you like this, you might like this. And so we're doing, obviously, if you're listening,
Yeah.
you know, we're doing Possession from 1981 and
Silent Hill from 2006, I
Mhm.
think.
2006.
Yeah.
which everybody that we've told that to has been like, that's a weird pairing. And
It is.
But it works.
But it kind of works.
it works. It
Yeah.
works on a lot more levels
Yeah.
than I expected.
Yeah,
And yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I would say I did sleep. I have been
Great.
getting lots of sleep lately.
Love that. Get enough sleep for the both of
Yeah,
us.
but it's still, these movies are dense.
They're
really
dense
dense.
boys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, before I also, really quick, I want to give a shout out to my shirt because I feel like I dressed
yes, it's
weird
it's so
on
good.
theme a little bit. I don't know.
Yes.
I feel like I'm wearing, for those of you watching, you can see what the fuck I'm wearing. Ta-da. I'm wearing Doc Martens that go up to my thigh.
Mm-hmm.
And
we all
I'm
should be.
wearing a Tetsu shirt, which is
Mm-hmm.
a Japanese like stop motion horror,
It's
horror.
It's
black and white,
body
right?
horror, black and white from like mid 80s or
Yeah.
early 80s.
Yes.
It's amazing.
And I no, I'm not. I don't know the band. But I bought
Yet.
this shirt.
Not yet. You
Morgan
will know the
I will know
band.
the band eventually. I bought this as a way to bully myself. But I wanted to shout out the shirt because the design's great. It's from a guy. The brand's Spectral Youth. Spectral Youth on Instagram. We met him. We had booths next to each other at Morgan Crypt,
Yeah.
which we're hoping to be at in September this year.
I'm sure we'll be there. It's just a
And,
matter
yeah.
of how.
Gotta shout it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And I know you got that shirt. I got a Suspiria poster from him, which is now hanging above my editing suite. So
I'm
yeah.
glad you found a place to put
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
And then Trev got a sick Candyman shirt.
Oh,
so yeah,
so
he had
good.
great shit. Anyways,
Yeah.
I just want to shout that out because I was really excited to wear this today.
Had to. Which also, let me just say, I have been wanting us to cover Tetsuo for a while. We just got the news. I can't remember what day this episode is coming out. Normally I'm better with this math, but again, 3.5 hours of sleep. But I have no idea when this is coming out. The day that we're recording this, we just found out that The Substance got a whole bunch of Oscar nominations. And because The Substance is body horror, I would like to suggest that sometime timed around the Oscars,
God.
perhaps, we do a Tetsuo Iron Man
Oh my
pairing
god.
with
The Substance?
We've not done like a
modern
recent release, but I think
That'd be fun.
that merits it.
Yeah.
You know?
See, and then I can bully you to watch Substance, and you can bully me to watch the shirt that I own.
Yeah.
So
Because they're very different, but my understanding is from what I've heard about The Substance, I'm sure Tetsuo was a reference point. Does that feel fair to say? I'm looking around the room. People are nodding. Okay.
I think so. I wish we were going first with your movie. I gotta process yours still.
Oh yeah,
so.
I've got to process yours
Oh, my
still.
God.
Again,
I know.
I
don't know where to.
you know that painting, The Nightmare, of the woman with like the demon crouching on her chest? And it's like about
Yes.
sleep paralysis.
Yeah.
That's like the state that I watched Silent Hill in.
That's how I felt after watching both these
like
movies.
there was a point where I like fell into a doze as I was watching.
Yeah.
Because I was like in bed with headphones on watching, which is like a great way to watch a horror movie, you know, with all the lights off. Very, very like all immersive, and I fell asleep during it, but was still listening to like the soundtrack.
Oh god.
And
The
was
soundtrack's so good.
it's so good, and I was only out for like 3.5 minutes because I
Yeah.
woke back up
Oh
and
God, what part
like
did you fall asleep at? Do you even know? There's so much. I don't even know if you could pinpoint. I've
I
seen this movie.
genuinely I have no this was such a disorienting ride for me, Al.
I was making chainmail during possession.
Of
so.
course you were. I love that.
I've started my chainmail journey. So.
Good. Okay.
But I was watching. It wasn't the funny games, so we're good.
Yeah. So point being, yeah.
Will
I know a lot of people watch Possession and are like, "What the fuck is this?" I watched Silent Hill and was like, "What the fuck is this?" Because of the situation in which I was watching. So,
well, good. We're both on either ends of that spectrum.
Yeah.
So.
I would like to clarify. I did when I fell asleep, woke up and like took it back over the spot.
No one's gonna shame you.
But I don't know that I caught any more the second time. So it's yeah. It. Help.
These are yeah. I was gonna say, should we just? I don't know if you have a tidbit. Want to start? Maybe we just kick this journey off because I'm like dying to talk to you about these.
Yeah, I do have a tidbit, but I can save it for when we get into mine because it's very possession centric. So
perfect.
Yeah.
Does
that feel good?
Yeah, I have. I basically have tidbits, but they're like. Again, didn't know where to put them things, so I think I'll just start there. Should we just dive in? Because I want to talk about possession so bad, and I go first.
So much to talk about with both of these. And also, like, please help me understand what happened in Silent Hill, because to be honest, after I finished the movie, again, at 3:30 in the morning, I turned it off, immediately went to Wikipedia, read the plot summary, and was like, I'm still not sure that
this
I know
was
what
my
happened.
worst fear that you were going to ask me this. So I want to preface with, I saw this movie pretty close to when it came out, maybe a few years after.
Cool.
So this is based on a 1999 video game by the same name. I'll just start there actually. I'm gonna butcher names left and right because I forgot to write everyone phonetically.
Listen, I found out that last episode, you know, the military training thing I was talking about, it's Siri, it's not Seer, it's fine.
Oh,
we
little
mispronounce things all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, forgive me, everyone.
Yeah.
Taichiro Toyama, I believe, is how you pronounce the name. Probably not. It was developed by Team Silent within like this group of Konami Computer Entertainment, which is in Tokyo, and it was published by Konami for PlayStation. So 1999. I am not a video game person.
I'm a Sims person.
Yeah, Sims person. I'm looking into getting into Sims Medieval again.
I've never played it and it looks so fun.
It looks really fun. But yeah, Silent Hill, I'm not horror games. I love watching gameplays of them. So I've watched clips, but this is taken directly from that. So this is the first time we've covered something that was like a direct from a video game.
Yeah.
I want to say this is, other than like the Last of Us TV show that's come out, I want to say this is like one of the bigger adaptations of a video game. Resident Evil is pretty big too. Yeah. That's fair. That's fair. I always forget that's a video game.
We're not video game
because they've made their franchises like so their own. They just kind of I forget
it's eclipsed the game.
So anyone I'll preface with, because I didn't play the game, I will be kind of talking about some stuff like that. So those of you who've played the game, obsessed with the series, you might know all of these facts, but we don't. We're learning. But yeah, so I've watched it a few times. I watched it a couple months ago, actually, and I wasn't even. I think I've like briefly asked, like, oh, we should do this on the pod at some point.
I think it was on my list of titles for some time. I threw it at
you one day,
but I never had a pairing for it.
Yeah.
So
you just threw it
I knew almost nothing about it. All I knew about Silent Hill was the nurse costume that we saw at Morgan Crypt and Pyramid Head.
And I remember I pointed out Pyramid Head, and I told you like the lore.
Yeah, I didn't know what either of them were, and so you explained them to me after seeing them at Morgan Crypt. So I knew that, and I knew Foggy. And that's it.
Foggy.
Like I knew that the images from it have like a lot of mist.
Yeah.
And that's
how
literally
it
all I knew
here in Santa Fe.
I know. Yeah, we had a very on theme weather morning. Language is hard, guys.
You're good. Did you? I'm gonna kick off. Actually, I'm not gonna. I'm gonna ask you how you feel about it at the end.
Ask me how I feel about it at the end. I need
you get a process.
I need to process it through the conversation.
Okay, so I've seen it a few times. Every time I watch it, I forget how much fucking shit happens. And I'm going to be honest, sometimes this movie, I overthink it and confuses the fuck out of me. Yeah. So if anyone else feels that way too, I kind of went, uh-oh. And then I was afraid you were going to ask me that.
It feels very vibes based.
Yeah. It's,
Like-
it's vibey.
Yeah. Like
Don't ask me. We don't go into theory. I don't go into theory on this podcast. So, but
only
yeah.
at a tiny desk. Yeah.
So maybe at the end we'll kind of talk about that a little bit.
Cool.
But I'll read I can start off with description. So
Please.
Rose Silva takes her adopted daughter Sharon, worst name ever for a child, sorry.
Truly. Sharon, I can only picture Sharons that are like 40 plus years old.
I just keep hearing Ozzy Osbourne screaming Sharon. And that's all I kept doing.
neither of
I was like,
those are good.
Sharon! That's what I kept doing the whole time watching this. Yo, the Beatrice Ozzy, you. That's all I could think of. So, do you know what I'm talking about? Okay. Sometimes I think you just think I'm funny and you have no idea what I'm referencing.
A
and I
lot of the
appreciate
time,
it.
that's true. A lot of the time. More often than I would like to admit, that's true.
So Rose takes her adopted daughter Sharon to the town of Silent Hill in an attempt to cure her of an ailment. After a violent car crash, Sharon disappears and Rose begins a horrific journey to get her back. Which is kind of the gist of what you know.
Yeah.
There's cult stuff. There's a lot of religion, which like that's the part that we all know here on this podcast. If you listen, I don't really know anything about. But there's this cult that wrongly burned a child.
Yeah, it gets like a little bit Children of the Corn.
Yeah, and they're kind of in like this purgatory, hellraisery. It kind of has like it's got a lot of things happening.
There's so many things. It's like it's so many subgenres rolled into one.
I realized I didn't even write the genres, but that's the gist of what we're dealing with. Do I want to say a little tidbit? It's kind of boring, but it's kind of cute. Love
a boring, cute tidbit.
So my little tidbit for the day is one of the stores that's visible in the movie is called M.T. Rooms, which is an inside joke referring to the fact that in both the film and the games, most of the structures are facades, and so they're empty rooms. And I just think that's really cute. That's all.
I love that.
Cute little.
Yeah.
I have taglines today.
Oh my god.
Some good, some bad.
Please. Oh, I forgot to look up taglines for mine.
I did last time.
Yeah.
So taglines today. So I'm making up for it. I got five here for you. We'll start with the good ones that are very like simple to the point.
Excellent.
I'm wondering if anyone can hear the snow being shoveled outside on the audio. If you can, we're so sorry.
Yep.
If you can't, ignore me. The first tagline is "Enjoy your stay." I think these are like simple to the point. The next one, "The game is on." You hate that one.
I hate that one.
I like this one. "We've been expecting you."
That's good.
I love the good. Ominous waiting for. The bad ones. There's a bunch too.
Good, bad, or bad, bad?
You be the judge.
Excellent.
"Welcome to paradise." I don't know why it's so bad. Like, where did they go? That's it. And this is from the game. And then this one. "Not so silent anymore."
No, stop it.
Which arguably might be my favorite.
I mean,
might
it's
be the worst.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
Silent Hill,
not so silent anymore. So,
it has to be in that voice too.
Yeah, not so silent anymore. So, taglines, yay. We have. Oh, I forgot to look up how to say his name too. It's like Christoph, but there's an E at the end. So Christoph Gans.
We'll yeah. I don't know how to pronounce it either.
Gans.
Probably
Director
not,
Gans.
but I would love if you continued saying it that way.
He is obviously a French director, and he's actually from Antibes, which I have personally visited. Trav has shot there for a little show, you might know, Below Deck. And so I got to visit, and I love that he was there because I feel like I don't see Antibes kind of shouted out, south of France. Beautiful little port city. Just wanted to shout that out. He wrote and directed the 2014 Beauty and the Beast. Like a French version, not the Disney one that we saw. And a few other projects I'm not familiar with, so I didn't list them.
Love that.
He was. It was said that it took him. I thought this was wild. It took him 5 years to obtain the rights to make Silent Hill.
Interesting.
Because he was such a freaking fanboy. He was finally given the rights after he sent Konami, the company that made the game, he sent them a video interview describing how much Silent Hill meant to him. And along with the interview, he also sent scenes that he filmed on his own dime to be like, look, I'm really serious about this. I'm a really big fan. But 5 years he pursued.
Really
and they finally probably were like, you know what? We're sick of getting
Yeah. The best way to shut him up is to say yes.
Yeah.
Do we know why it was so hard for him to get the rights? Because normally with something like that, that's like an IP getting adapted, they get snapped up right away.
Well, 2006, I feel like nowadays they really get snapped up. But I'm just assuming it was such a big game at the time that they were just afraid of.
Maybe they just kept thinking
adoption. Trav's shaking his head, so I'm going to take that as fact.
Love that.
Did not look why. Sorry. But yeah, that's kind of like was my assumption. It's just
that makes sense.
They were afraid to
I mean, it feels, I suppose, even not having played the game ever, it very much feels like a labor of love, just in the sense that it's so weird. And so when you make something that's really weird, it usually is because it comes from the heart.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, he really was planning this for 5 years before anything even started. So I'm sure he was like ready to go with everything. We have Roger Avery as a screenwriter.
Who is the co-host of Quentin Tarantino's podcast.
I was gonna say, so he also is co-writer on Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, and then adopted Bret Easton Ellis's Rules of Attraction as well. That makes sense. Podcast buddies. We've been on lists with them.
It's true. Well, and they're like one of the only other ones that's like the official podcast of a cinema. So
I didn't even realize that. That's so cute. Can you tell I haven't listened to that podcast?
I've listened to 1.5 episodes.
Maybe one day we'll get there.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Maybe not.
But today we're going to talk about him. And he wrote this. So Roger Avery is the only writer credited that we see, but the original treatment was actually written by Nicholas Boukrief. Boukhrif, who was actually the producer on this film. And then director Gons also wrote this too. So obviously that's what I'm saying. He like came ready to go, and I think Roger came in there and just cleaned stuff up. And so that was kind of like written as a tandem between, but they just give screenwriting credit to Roger. So cast again. Weird casting, in my opinion. For something like this. We have lots of casting stories, but I just think it's like a weird amalgamation of actors.
Yeah, because I don't know any of the performers in this from anything else. I thought that the little girl was amazing.
Have you seen her in anything else? I'm going to read off some stuff she's
done.
Okay, so we're going to start with Radha Mitchell as Rose, who is such a baddie. I love her in this. So there were other people up for this role that auditioned, one of whom was Meg Ryan.
Oh my God, can you imagine?
Yeah, right? Very much like looks like that, but has Meg Ryan even done anything that's not a rom-com?
Yeah.
Like, no offense to her. I love her so fucking much.
I adore Meg Ryan. Also, I think it looks like she and Billy Crystal are doing like a When Harry Met Sally reunion project that they just teased on the Instagram. So
I love
just
them
dropping that
so
there.
much.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Meg Ryan, and then Mila Jovovich, which she was
interesting.
Resident Evil.
Yes.
So
yeah, video game. Yeah, makes sense.
Which makes sense, but also like, did we need her to
good choice to not have her
be in two big franchises?
Yeah, I think it would be too easy to get them confused.
Yeah, but Meg Ryan, can you imagine Meg Ryan in a horror film like this?
I almost would love to see it, particularly because I feel
see that audition tape if they have it.
Right?
If anyone can hunt that down,
right?
Damn, send that our way.
Well, and at that point, she would be, I think, at least a little bit older than Rodham is. So it would give it a very different feel with some of like the physicality of the role I think could be really interesting.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Oh my God, I want to see that.
I know, me too.
Radha did a great job.
Yeah, I loved her. I absolutely love her in this. Apparently Christoph was a little irritated with her though. She had an approach to acting that he was not a fan of. It usually involved her needing to do several takes before she could even get into character.
Okay, but that's a lot of actors, to be honest.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It irritated him. He also said in the DVD commentary, which I did not listen to, But filming between Rada and then co-star Laurie Holden, who plays Sybil, their acting style was so different that he just said it was kind of like a struggle. But I think the chemistry was like...
I think that really works, especially because they look so similar, and it kind of feels like there's some doppelganger imagery going on there.
Yeah.
That it, you know, especially because there's all the stuff with like Alessa, is that her name? Versus Sharon, and you know, there's a lot of doubles and doppelgangers, and so the fact that their approach is so different, I think probably actually helped.
Paid off, because they're so Sybil pisses me off in the movie.
Sybil's not great.
So Laurie Holden did a great job. I think we're kind of supposed to hate her.
I think so.
But
also, like, she's a cop, so I'm going to anyway.
Yeah. Same. Also, like, the fact that she sees a mom and daughter, and the daughter's being consoled by her mother,
mom, and it's just like something's wrong.
Something's wrong here.
Yeah. Well,
like,
it almost
you're gonna drive all the way out of your way. You deserve to get burned,
right?
I said it.
Love the honesty, Al. I love the
way
honesty. Well, and I almost wonder if what we're supposed to interpret from that is that she sees that the girl doesn't look like her mother, in which case, like, that's fucked up.
Wild.
Like, that's not...
Again,
don't make assumptions about that. Yeah.
Cop energy.
Yeah.
Do you want to know who was originally wanted as the role for her?
Please.
I don't know if she auditioned, but it says, like, she was wanted.
Yeah.
Cameron Diaz. Can you imagine Meg Ryan and Cameron Diaz
my
as the leads in this film?
It would be impossible to take seriously.
I know.
But I want to see it so bad.
I know, I want to see it so bad. Another universe, another timeline that exists.
Oh my God, somebody mock up that poster.
Yeah, Silent Hill starring Meg Ryan and Cameron Diaz.
Oh my God.
Different movie. We have Sean Bean as the dad. Christopher is his name. I don't know if they ever really say his name. He's just screaming Sharon screaming Sharon everywhere in the... She
says his name, which I remember it
all
stood
I can hear
out
is
to me
Sharon
as
being
weird
shouted.
because his voicemail is like, "Hi, you've reached Chris," and she calls him Christopher. And I'm like, why? That's your...
Yeah, there's some like undeveloped... Their relationship in this film feels
very undeveloped, to me. Yeah.
But
it's also like not the point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wrote, what isn't this man in? So obviously we all know him as Boromir in Lord of the Rings.
Which I just finally watched this Christmas season.
So good. So glad. I wish we could cover that on here. And then shout out to our world of George. He's Ned Stark in Game of Thrones, which I've not seen. He was one of all the actors in the role, he actually is one of the ones that did not play the game. He kind of just saw the cover and was like, this sounds like a good time.
That's well, and he also like he loves a fanboy franchise, does Sean Bean, you know?
Sean Bean. I can't call him anything else. I'm so sorry. It's been since childhood. But yeah, so he just saw the cover. I was like, this seems dope. I'm in. And
he judged that book by his cover.
Yeah. People like to compare this to a film that I've never heard of nor seen. It's from 2005 called The Dark. I don't know if you're familiar.
Haven't seen it. Name sounds vaguely familiar, but don't really know anything about it.
It's another horror film where the role of the father is dealing with a supernatural phenomenon involving his daughter. So I'm thinking maybe if you like this film and you kind of want something kind of similar,
interesting.
Give it a look. If anyone knows if it's good, let us know.
Yeah.
And then I have a couple like dumb tidbits at the end of these. This is one of the few mainstream films that Sean Bean in his career that he hasn't died, which people like to know is funny because like it's one of the few like horror movies he's been in. So like he should theoretically.
He's our final girl.
He's our final girl, just chilling on the couch, being like, I hear the winds of my wife and my
the
child.
winds of my wife have blown open the door.
We have Deborah Kara Unger
as
Delilah
from Crash. From David Cronenberg's Crash.
I didn't know that. Oh, shit.
She came on screen and I was like, is it? Because the wig makes her look very different.
Yeah.
Like in Crash, she's like at her most femme fatale.
Oh.
And so this is like completely opposite. And she's so good with like the physicality of this role. Like, mwah.
So good.
Love
that's
her.
So funny. I also didn't list credits, so thank you.
Oh, there you go.
Both.
Everybody watch Crash.
I know, we need it. Is it horror?
It's horrifying.
Oh,
what
perfect.
do you I don't know. Write it.
Okay, so we might not
us.
cover it. Yeah.
I said sometime last year that I want to convince you that it's horror so that we can cover it because I think there's a case to be made.
Maybe we'll do an episode like
that.
Yeah. Love that you know her from that. I don't know if I necessarily know her from much.
Fair.
But both the director and Deborah refer to I said Delilah, it's Dahlia, as Cassandra Dahlia, and that's because this is a direct reference from the Greek story of Cassandra, who, if you're not familiar, like I was not, she had the gift of foresight, but was cursed to believe was cursed to be believed by no one. So she's kind of referred to as like Cassandra Truth. So that's what they called her on set, which I think is really cute.
Love that.
And yeah, a little fun fact about her. We have Jodelle Ferland as Sharon, which I love this child actor.
So
I first saw
talented.
her in Terry Gilliam's Tideland.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet.
I love Terry Gilliam films. I know they're all cursed and everything, but she's
you feel watching them, and I love it.
Yeah. She I want to say she was in that around 2006 as well, because I was in France and I saw the movie poster. I thought it was a French film at the time, because I was a American teen, so
also,
I
like,
was
Tidelands feels like the name of a French film.
You know? And I was like, Terry Gilliam, that sounds French. I don't know. I was 16. But then went home, watched it, and so that's when I first kind of learned of her. She's most known for, I think, for me, that role. She's in 2002's Carrie. She's in Twilight Saga Eclipse, which I've not seen, and Cabin in the Woods as well.
Interesting.
So, she has a really robust career, and I feel like she's one of those actresses that's like weirdly like slips in.
Yeah.
Places.
I did not recognize her for that. That's so funny.
I know. I have to do a double take on her a lot.
Yeah.
She's also in television series Supernatural, Dark Matter, and Kingdom Hospital, which is actually what she was cast off of. She was the first actor hired for the first actor cast in this entire film, which is ironic because Christoph was afraid that her character would be the most difficult to cast because she has to play essentially 3 different characters. So she'd play Alyssa, Dark Alyssa, and Sharon. Yeah. So they were worried, but she was the first out the gate because he saw her on an episode of Kingdom Hospital and was like, that's so our girl. Impressive. She auditioned and she got it.
Wow. Because it's, I mean, her face is the poster. She and so often when you have a child actor in a story like this where the whole story working or not working hinges on that performance.
Oh, truly.
That's terrifying as a filmmaker, especially because then there's so many restrictions working with child actors, as there should be in terms of labor laws, and so like you really need somebody who's not only that good but like really mature at an incredibly young age.
Yeah, and you can kind of see the maturity in her. It's funny because obviously this film's like really fucked up. And she was 10 years old on this set. And
I was wondering how old she was.
Yeah, 10 years old. The writer Roger Avery actually apologized to her parents and was like, sorry if she shows any kind of signs of like trauma after this because of the material. Just let us know if she needs it.
Oh my God. We'll pay for therapy.
Yeah. I hope. Instead, she just went to continue on acting.
Love that.
Which is also, I think, you know what I mean?
Hope they pay
There's
for
a little
therapy.
bit of trauma. Yeah. But yeah, she's so good in this. She has a little bit of a whiny voice. But like as far as child actors go and the dialogue that she was given and having to play these like very specific characters, I think she looked that makeup on her too. She looks like The Ring.
Yeah, she also just has a very intense stare.
Yeah. The staring in both of these films really got to me. Yeah, her little creepy eyeballs.
Yes. Well, and it's really hard. Generally speaking, falling asleep and waking up are really hard to do in ways that look natural.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about your experience of falling asleep and waking up.
I mean, also that.
I was like, yeah. Tell us more.
So true. Like I remember from like back in my acting days, that was like we spent days and days like judging each other's like falling asleep and waking up performances because it's so hard to do in a way that looks natural. And she does such an incredible job of like the way her eyes just like slowly get sleepy. Like thinking about the car at towards the very end as she's like falling asleep there.
It's good to know watching again because it
Yeah.
does seem like something hard to do to be like, yawn.
Yeah. Like it's really hard for it to look convincing.
Funny.
Yeah.
I love that. another actor who I love is Tim Coates. I think that's how you say his name. He's in Sons of Anarchy. I feel like that's where everyone knows him from. He plays Thomas Gucci.
What a name.
I know.
What a name.
Which we have a reason why he has that name, actually. I wanted to shout out too. He's also in American Primeval, which was shot
here
in Santa Fe and around Santa Fe.
A whole bunch of my friends were on that one.
Yeah, so shout
Carrie,
out to
my producer, costume designer who you met, was on that one.
Yeah,
too.
Wanted to shout that out. Yeah. So I haven't watched it yet, but he's in
so
that.
Cool.
And so he was here not too long ago.
NM Film. Yeah.
His character is one of the only original characters, which I'm going to say original in like quotations once you hear this. Original characters made for the film. But the name does come from the game. There's a point in the game at the police station where they kind of mention an individual simply known as Officer Gucci, who was found dead under mysterious circumstances. So they kind of did pull a little nod. So like, in my eyes, it could be the same person, so it's technically not an original character. It's just an expanded on character.
Yeah,
so
that makes sense.
But yeah, Officer Gucci. Wild name. We have Alice Krige, Krige, as Christabella.
No idea.
Yeah. She was actually the last person they hired for the project. She was cast just 2 weeks before they started shooting, which I know I love to give you that heart attack and thought. She killed this. Is she the one that's in I didn't write what she was in, but she's the one that's in The Boys, correct? Christabella. Oh shit! Never mind. Going back, I don't know her from anything then. So she
fill in the blanks.
Oh, I have a Siena coded fact for this one. So I feel like this might be a you fact. So I learned that in order to prepare for her role as Christabella, she read the book The End of Days by Erna Paris, which is a book about the tyranny during the Spanish Inquisition. And I thought you would like to know that. I didn't know if you would know what that book is already.
I haven't heard of that, but that's what an interesting choice.
That's why I feel like there's a lot of layers to this film. And when you... Again, I walked in here in fear you were going to ask me what the film's about, and I'm glad that we're a behind-the-scenes podcast. Yep. So I don't have to go into that.
I was thinking about that as I got ready for my film. I was like, thank God we've established that we don't really do summaries.
Because we don't. Sorry, you're looking for that? Plenty of other places to listen to.
This is not the podcast.
We have nerd facts. But yeah, so I thought you would like that. I'm curious if anyone is familiar with the book. So lots of research on her end. She actually said she did not particularly enjoy her role in a very lame actory way, because she said her character was too manipulative and evil. And I was like, you're acting,
lame.
But okay.
That's so much more fun.
Don't take the role. I know. Yeah, too soft. Why are you acting? That's the point. And in a dumb random tidbit for her, which I didn't notice, so this was an interesting fact. Alice had to wear blue contacts during filming in order to match the eye color of Sharon and Dahlia, because they're supposed to that's their little nod that they're all like related in some way. But there's so much imagery going on.
Yeah,
blue contacts
did not even pick up on
did not help. They needed to be brighter blue.
Yep.
So I had
didn't register. Did not register.
So yeah, that's something to rewatch if you haven't noticed that. I've never noticed it in the few times I've watched it.
Again,
I'm just hanging on, trying to figure out what the fuck's going on every time.
Well, and it's interesting because it's very much like, as is so often the case with adaptations, it's like so much will make so much more sense probably if you're familiar with the source material.
Oh, for sure.
But I also think because it's horror, there's a way in which the fact that it's kind of inaccessible, like if you don't know it, almost makes it creepier. Like the fact that there's so many layers of lore that we can feel are there.
I gotta imagine that game is so fun to like.
Oh my
unfold.
God! Yeah, there's got to be so many Easter eggs.
Yeah, which we do have a section of Easter eggs actually.
Love.
I'm gonna get to this point and then we'll talk about him later. But of course, we have to note the actor who plays Pyramid Head and many roles. He is a dancer choreographer, Roberto Campanella.
Interesting.
Icon. So he not only played Pyramid Head, he also played the tortured janitor, which is terrifying.
Yeah.
And Colin, the janitor from I don't know if those are the same people. I noted them twice. He also was the movement coordinator for all of the creatures and oversaw how they performed their movements for their respective characters. So we have like the gray children. Sorry, my finger cracked. The dark nurses and the armless man. So he was kind of like that dude. I want to get more into him later because we have some fun little tidbits about him.
The armless man performance.
Yeah.
Terrified me.
The body
physicality.
The physicality, again, and I can't wait. That's why I can't wait to talk about Possession in comparison to this, because
so much in common there.
the body movements in both of these is wild. Yeah. If you're I would say if anyone has not seen Possession, which I kind of only saw the poster and like heard about it, it comes up on so many lists.
It's a big cult hit. Like it's very much like a underground. If you know it, you probably love it.
Yeah.
If like otherwise you probably haven't even heard of it.
Yeah. But if you like if you are a big fan of the movement and body movement in Silent Hill, I would say absolutely watch.
And a little tidbit preview if you're a big fan of the movement in Nosferatu, because Possession is one of the things that Lily Rose Depp studied for.
Yeah. Which is also nominated for an Oscar.
It is. I can't remember what, but yeah.
Good year for horror. So very very fun things to watch next to each other. A couple tidbits about some of the extras in the witch burning picture, or the witch burning scene in the church. They actually had crew members that were used, and they were kind of like painted as spectators, so they kind of just threw them in there, which I love
that. Yeah.
And then
crew hates that.
Yeah. Oh,
love it as a director.
If anyone looks like they're supposed to kind of look a little miserable, I feel like if there's an extra miserable person in that scene, it's probably a crew member. We need to clip that out and put just like images of who we think's the crew.
I'm so gonna do that, Al. Yeah.
And then most of the creatures in the film were played by dancers, obviously, so they could have the flexibility and kind of like be able to be in tune with their body to move them in these ways that a normal actor or extra obviously would potentially not be able to do. We're gonna get into a little pre-production about the script. I don't have much. Obviously, the source material is the game, so there's like not much here. In the version we see in theaters, it's the one that Chris F. Gans wanted us to see, actually, so we kind of get the director's cut. He said in an interview that the studio executives loved his version, which is like a wild
rare
thing. And he was never asked to cut down the film. In a wild turn of events that's never happened, I feel like, in cinematic history. The studio loved the director's cut.
Happy. That's wild. Well, and I mean, I guess it clocks in at like 2 hours, 3 minutes, I think. Something like that.
The initial script, though, I love that you teed me up, was actually expected to be 3.5 hours. I don't think the studio would have been on board with that. So, like, cut down the script. Yeah. Okay, it's perfect.
Wow.
3.5 hour movie.
I wonder how much of that...
Can you imagine the material that would have gone in there?
Well, I mean, I know it has so many sequels, right? So there's just so much to do in this world. As in video games, especially like these robust, like more open world. It's just like they're open. There's so much to explore.
But loved that they loved it. Good for him.
Yeah.
In the original script for the film, Rose was actually supposed to take Sharon to a faith healer, since she was terminally ill, like beyond medical help is what was going to happen. And so they would just kind of end up in Silent Hill by chance, which I'm kind of glad that there's this weird...
She's got a connection to it. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of would have felt like, oh, okay, I guess we're here.
It would have felt a little too random.
Yeah. And then I guess in the game... Harry Mason actually takes Cheryl to Silent Hill for a vacation because she suggested it. So there's like a big discrepancy of they change a lot from certain things. There's also a lot of plot holes I've been reading about. I will not be getting into those. And in the original script, he had actually only written female characters, but after submitting it, the script was returned to Christoph at the time with a memo saying there are no men. And so Scene Bean.
Are you kidding me?
Isn't that wild?
There are no men?
Yeah. That's where the studio fails. The studio had a studio at some point.
At some point, the studio's got a studio.
So they were really pissed. And then so Scene Bean got cast, and Thomas Gucci got in there too. So, which is fine. Yep. But now I'm realizing that's probably why their development of their relationship makes no fucking sense.
Yeah, because it's very tacked on.
Yeah.
That comes across. The tacked on quality.
Yeah. Budget.
Oh my god, I don't.
Yeah, because Creep was like a weird one for me.
Oh,
I'm not surprised by this budget, if I'm quite honest.
It feels like it must be huge. It feels like it must be huge.
It is, but not in the way you think. We've had bigger budgets on this.
25.
Oh, you can go up from there.
30? 50.
50.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Which I feel like with as much that goes on in this.
Yeah.
And wait until you hear, I mean, we're jumping right into production.
Oh.
So 50 million is what it
Mhm.
costs to make, which I think is big, but it's so reasonable for this.
Yeah.
It grossed over 100.6 million worldwide. So it
did quite
it did
well. Yeah.
But here's where we get like, holy shit, how did they do this on a $50 million budget? So they shot both on location and in studio, obviously. There were a total of 165 sets and locations combined to create Silent Hill. Wild. The actress Rada, she estimates, which I love this perspective, she estimates that a new set was used in the film basically every 60 seconds.
Jesus Christ.
Wild.
No.
Wild. They had multiple different sets that were constructed to create each of the 4 versions of Silent Hill. So we have like the 2004 version when the movie is set, the 1974, the Fog World, and then like the Other World. So we have these 4. So basically for every one thing they did, they had to do 4 of those. Oh my God. So it adds up over time, but just the thought of
that's just
managing that and knowing where you're shooting that day.
Oh my God. The continuity too must have been a fucking nightmare.
I know. And I don't have how long this took to make, unfortunately.
Oh my God.
I'm sure it's out there. But yeah, I'm just keeping track of that makes me want to puke.
Yeah.
Even just an actor, like how you change. So some of the locations they shot was Pennsylvania and Ontario, Canada were the main 2 that I found. The game is based off of Centralia, Pennsylvania. I think that's what it's called. And so
which is coal country. That's
yeah. So screenwriter Roger, he was researching different elements. I want to say it was now I feel like I'm having conflicting information because I feel like I read something else too. I'm pretty sure the game is also based on this place, but then Roger's also acting like it's the film was inspired by.
My partner was telling me about this a little bit last night, and I don't know which of the 2 it is, but I know it is based on a real place.
It's a real place, yeah. It's an abandoned town. Yeah. It's with a 40-year-old coal fire burning underneath it. So it's based on real horrors. Yeah. It is a real place. You can go see it. It's like a film stop destination place. I don't think I want to. I don't want anything following me.
Can't imagine that the vapors from that would be good for you. The vapors out of the vapors.
We also have Ontario. So I just have like a little bit of that place. You can look up pictures of it. Just it feels eerie and abandoned. We also have Brantford, Ontario. They shot there for 4 days. That's kind of what you see in the beginning of the film, kind of like where the house is. And then also that main road when she enters Silent Hill,
where there's the like "Welcome to Silent Hill" sign.
Yeah. Cool. That was on Colborne Street, which is the main street we see. They said they were really happy to find that location because they didn't have to do much. It was already abandoned. The buildings were kind of run down, so they kind of just had to do a little bit of extra dressing for it. But it just kind of like
such a difference to have that be real.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think the area has been like cleaned up considerably now, so you can't really go see and experience it in that way. They also found a waterfall. The waterfall we see at the beginning, that shot immediately makes me feel uneasy.
Yeah. Oh, it makes me so nervous.
Yeah, I don't like peeking over. I don't like when the camera wants to peek over the edge with me.
No peeking.
Yeah. And then the waterfall is actually called the Devil's Punch Bowl, and it's located in Hamilton, Ontario.
Is that great? It's a great waterfall name.
Devil's Punch Bowl. So those are the locations that at least I could find. There might be more. Some Easter eggs, like we said. So there's a few Easter eggs in this. I'm going to note just a couple. Silent Hills College, visited by Rose, is called Midwich. And I don't know if that raised anything for you.
That rings a bell.
So Midwich is actually the fictional town of the 1960s and the 1995 remake.
John Carpenter Bell.
Village of the Damned.
Which I haven't seen yet. But,
you haven't seen either of those? Yeah. So,
which we also should cover. But
fuck yeah, we have to. I cannot wait. And so they're also based on the original novel, which is called The Midwich Cuckoos, written by John Wyndham, which was published in 1957 as well.
I think we have a whole bunch of John Wyndham at
Beasley Books.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I think we
shit.
have a bunch of him in the
10%
rare
off.
books
Bitches.
case. Yeah.
Sick.
Like some of the like
Yeah,
original.
Midwich.
Yeah.
So yeah, I noted, I did my notes first, and I
Mhm.
was like, I know what that's
It's
from
a
now.
thing.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
ring a bell.
Yeah.
And then obviously, if you're not familiar with the video game, like the two of us, I have some
Mhm.
Easter eggs in the video game that you might have like
Yay.
missed. So the first one you'll see is in the beginning of the film when
Mhm.
Rose is running trying to find Sharon. She runs through that tunnel, and on the tunnel walls you'll spot some graffiti that spell out Cheryl, and Cheryl is the original name of Sharon's character from the Silent Hill video game.
Oh, interesting.
Another one that you can kind of see is in the room where we see Rose, like Alessa's like scribbling on the desk in that little classroom. It actually, we see a cult symbol from the games on the wall behind her, just as she kind of, Rose runs across the catwalk. So there's like some little,
Interesting.
we wouldn't know what the fuck those are.
Yeah.
Some of the things we also see in the film, are actually from the second Silent Hill game, so not
Okay.
the first game, which most of this is based off of. So a majority of the creatures are actually from the second game, not from the first game.
Oh.
So some of those are the sexualized nurses, Pyramid Head, and the Armless Man are from Silent Hill 2.
Oh, so it got thirstier with time.
Yeah. Also, I didn't put it in here, there's some discrepancies of the sexualized nurses and like how they came from the creator's like sexual frustration. So a lot of people don't like to consider them canon in some way.
Oh,
I don't know.
Weird.
If you know the game, you probably know the thing. I don't care. I fucking love those bitches.
I just thought like
they're amazing.
A, it's so scary, so iconic,
So
but also B, it makes sense in this narrative that's about this like coal fire burning underground, and they talk about like, oh, you can't spend too much time there or you'll get sick. Like it makes sense to me that there would be like grotesque nurses.
Yeah,
like you feel like you need that.
I know, but those nurses ate, man. They could have done anything, and that's what they
that's
chose. And it's so good. Colin and the janitor are the only monsters in the film are actually from the original game and not the second one.
Interesting.
Oh wait, no, are they not from the games? Oh no, they're not. Sorry, wrong. Colin and the janitor are the only monsters of the film who do not come from the games at all, and they were conceptualized the day before the scenes were shot because they needed to throw something in. I just think Christoph's brain has been going for 5 years trying to make this thing. He's like, if we need characters, I've ready.
Got characters. Yeah,
throw him in.
Completely immersed.
My bad. I'm so sorry.
Point.
I can't read my own notes sometimes. And then the nurses were actually called puppet nurses, which now I feel like they're called like dark nurses and sexualized nurses. Yeah. They were called puppet nurses, and were actually
kind of a puppety movement quality.
And they were controlled by parasitic organisms in the second game, which very much reminds me of like The Last of Us.
So creepy.
Yeah, that's why their movement's kind of like
weird.
That. And then, quick shout out for the special effects artist while we're kind of on this. I have 3 names that I noted in this. Obviously, this took so many people and so many, but these were kind of the 3 names that came up. So we have Dave Axford, who worked on RoboCop and Total Recall,
cool.
And then was the VFX supervisor for The Umbrella Academy,
Whoa.
2013's Carrie, and 2011's The Thing.
Interesting.
So he's done a lot of cool shit.
Good horror pedigree.
Yeah. And then we have Damon Bishop. He did SFX work on Cronenberg's X Descends, which we covered on the podcast.
Amazing effects. Amazing.
So good. Yeah. So good. 2011's The Thing, so he worked with Dave. Together. And then Repo the Genetic Opera, which I want us to watch at some point, and some of the Saw films and some other things too. They all have pretty robust resumes, except for Chris Bridges only seemed to do a couple of things. The things I'm noting are wild. He did animatronics for the 2004 Dawn of the Dead, which I do love. Prosthetics for 2011's Poltergeist. And in a shout out to Trav, he was SFX makeup designer on Honey, I Shrunk the Kids TV show from the 90s.
Oh my God.
I knew you'd like that one. So he's like done prosthetics and animatronics and then makeup, and he's had the wildest career of all the artists, I feel like. Very diverse dude.
Cool.
And in total, Silent Hill used 619 visual effects shots from 9 different vendors throughout the entire movie.
Wow.
Yeah. Which, yeah, it fucking feels like
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
This movie gives me whiplash sometimes of the imagery.
Well, and I think there's a way in which, even though some of the computer generated effects feel a little dated to me, I also think it works better because it's a video game adaptation, where it reads less like
Oh, for sure.
a failure of VFX and more like, oh, this feels video gamey.
It's yeah. I feel like that's it's got to be so fun to have the freedom to be like, it is a video game, so people aren't going to be looking for realism in a way that they would.
It is
if it was
meant
just,
to be stylized.
The little bugs with the little human faces. I can never remember what they are until they flip over and then you see them.
But they're so good.
They're creepy.
So good.
This is where we get into movie magic and Pyramid Head. So we're gonna start with my favorite fact, which I tried to note, and I feel like I had to then look at images online because it does happen so subtly. So for Rose's outfits, there were roughly 100 different versions made. And it started off with her soft summer colors. And as the movie progresses, they actually turn into more gray and then eventually that blood red. So her outfit looks, from the start to finish, looks completely different.
Wow.
One could say, oh, it's like blood or whatever, but it really is like a different outfit by the end.
That's so cool. It's
you
like
don't
Bruce Willis's tank tops and Die Hard type of situation. I think they made like 120 of them.
Oh my God.
To like get the disintegration stages perfect.
Whoa. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
So I didn't notice. I noted it and I didn't notice it because there's just, again, so much other things going on that it really is like the subliminal.
Oh, that's cool. Good costume choice.
Yeah. And their intent was so that we wouldn't notice. So like, good job.
Good job. Check mark on that.
Yeah. And to kind of add to her already kind of like filthy clothing, I think this is gross. She did not wash her hair through the entire filming process.
I really want to know how long this filming process took.
Her hair kind of,
it looks perfect.
It looks really good.
Which I love, because one of my biggest pet peeves in like horror and action movies is when female stars look too clean and put together.
Yeah. Oh no, she looks like fucked up throughout this whole
She looks fucked up, and I love it.
Yeah, she's a baddie. She's one of my like, that role could have easily gone a direction of like, but like her screams were warranted, her cries were warranted. She'll fuck shit up when she needs to. So, so the moment we've all been waiting for, Pyramid Head facts. I have some. You might know this. You might not know this. I didn't. Again, he was played by dancer choreographer Roberto Campanelli. I don't know if this is my brain putting things together or if this is why everyone does this. So I'm gonna call all cosplayers to come to the front. I know you're out there and I know you've done a pyramid head. So he actually wore 15-inch heels to make him close to 7 feet tall in the film. Which I was like, is that why every baddie, like femme presenting person
does this costume?
Does that with the stripper heels? I'm like, is that why?
Sense.
Or is it we just love the aesthetic? Because like, both.
I mean, a little column A, a little column B.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that's
so
like a direct
cool.
reference to why they all wear stripper heels.
Probably why all of the femme presenting people doing this find it hot.
Yeah. I mean, he's so hot. I love that I love as fans, we just take these characters and run with them. Everyone's like, really that? And we're like, yes, that.
Yeah.
It took him around 3 hours to get fitted for Pyramid Head makeup and costume every single day, which I don't think is that bad. Seems a little egregious, but I don't think it's that bad with all the dirt and grime that's put on his body.
In the world of horror makeup,
3 hours,
positively light.
I'm like, half of it's covered, but that's fine.
Yeah.
He said that the helmet he wore for the Red Pyramid costume weighed approximately 12 pounds on its own.
Ooh.
And on top of that, he couldn't, because of the shape of it and everything, the only thing he couldn't see like his sides or in front of him, so he only could kind of see his feet. So that caused a lot of having this 12-pound thing.
Yeah.
You're in 15-inch heels.
Oh my God.
And you can't see where you're going.
Really have to practice that.
Oh my God, it's giving that
walk.
clip of Katya wearing those like 20-inch stripper heels on insert clip. Her falling down. And in the behind the scenes featurette, some of the actresses said, which I didn't see it on screen, but some of the actresses said that Pyramid Head outfit had actually no covering in the back.
Oh,
so his little tush was out the whole time on top of it.
That's incredible.
And apparently this was done intentionally, but no one knows why.
Christoph Gans is like,
he also thought
I know why.
Yeah. He's like, this one's for the girlies.
Yes.
He's got his pumped up ass because those 15-inch heels.
Cake.
He's got cake for days. So anyways, those were the facts I chose about him.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well done,
Yeah,
Al.
thank you. I love him. The music in this, again, note, I love this music. It actually kind of reminds, I'm trying to think if it reminds me of Dead Silence or not, but that kind of like lyrical piano.
Mhm.
So apart from Ring of Fire by Johnny Cash that we hear in this, all of the music is directly from
the video game? Nice.
except the film's production contract required that a Canadian composer be involved in some way. So Christoph Gans was like, shit, I really just wanted this to be like the video game. I am a nerd. I want it in here. I don't want to disappoint the other nerds. But
did he put it over like the end credits or something?
No, actually, they did it in a way that I think is subtle enough for me. They hired Jeff Dana to kind of remedy this, who also composed music for Disney's Onward, the 2019 Addams Family, and Terry Gilliam's Thailand, which I mentioned earlier. And he kind of just remixed the tracks.
Oh,
and
that's
so
cool.
it was like a very happy
That's
medium
cool.
where he just kind of like adjusted them so subtly.
Silent Hill, the Canadian take.
Yeah. I know, the Canadian cut. It's
The
like,
Canadian cut.
Love that they wanted to give, you know, if they're shooting there, that they wanted to kind of give something to a local.
Probably a tax incentive thing, but love that they had to do it. Love that they had to do it anyway.
Yeah. So I love that. It seemed like everyone was happy with it. And I like that Jeff Dana kind of was like, I got you. Like, it's okay. Getting into critics' impact as we're kind of rounding out the end of this, it has a 6.5 out of 10 on IMDb, which is a little, I don't know, I feel like maybe on par. I thought it was going to get a little higher. Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 32% from critics and a 63% from audiences.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. I would expect the audience to be higher.
Me too.
Yeah.
Like, damn, what are we all doing out here?
Wow.
Silent Hill is included on Roger Ebert's most hated list, having given the film 1.5 stars.
That's fascinating.
I did look up a quote from him, and I thought it was going to be way more harsh because I forget who he gave like the 1.5, but the extra half.
Oh, yeah, for being new.
Yeah. I forget who he gave that to, but I thought it was going to be way more critical. So I'm going to read you a quote from him, and I actually think like he gave it what he gave it in a good way, I guess. He said, quote, they talk, and somehow their words do not light up any synapses in my brain. If my brain has synapses and they're supposed to light up, and if it doesn't and they're not, then they still don't make any sense. Perhaps those who've played the game will understand the movie and enjoy it.
That's a fair review.
I think it's fair. It's like, fair. You know what? It's not doing it for me, but maybe you all like it. And that's fine. So I thought he could have really gone in hard with that 1.5. Did not.
Not nearly as catty as it could be.
Yeah.
We've seen Ebert be much cattier.
Yeah. I kind of was going to put some more stuff in here, but kind of the last thing I want to end on is the transformation effect we see from World Shifts, where it kind of comes up and does that really cool flaky.
Yeah. The ash.
Yeah. It was actually created exclusively for this film, but was later incorporated into the actual Silent Hill games after it was released.
That's cool.
So Fanboy got a bit of his design in the game after that. So
I also just have to shout out the sound cue of the horn that comes
when
in.
I woke up this morning, saw that fog, I started to make that noise.
Yeah. Oh, that just
it's
like
jarring.
I think that's what woke me up when I fell asleep for like 3 minutes.
Oh man, you're like,
yeah. I woke up and like there was, one of those transformation sequences going on, and I was like, oh god.
You felt like the world was just turning to ash around you. That wild. Both movies, I would get some sleep before, watch them fresh faced.
Don't do what I did.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Or if you're looking to get scared, maybe do.
Yeah, if you want to get a little fucked up,
Yeah.
Go in sleep deprived. But what did you think?
Talking about it makes me like it more. Yeah. But I feel like saying that makes it sound like I didn't like it.
This is a film that if you know nothing about it and you just go in cold, I can't imagine you can actually process this movie right now.
Again, I have no idea what happened, but I also feel like
I mean, same.
It works
Sometimes.
for me, even as somebody who doesn't understand any of the backstory, to be able to like narratively engage with it the way I think somebody who's played the game would be able to.
Right.
There's like a part of my brain that is just really satisfied by the creativity of the images being presented.
Yeah.
And I also just,
I think that's why people love, like, the imagery stands out. That, again, like,
it speaks for itself.
And it's just such a culture now. Like, no matter where you go for cosplay, you will see a Pyramid Head and you will see one of the nurses. You just will. And I think the fact that a film like this, I mean, it's a game, obviously. I think games just have such cultural pull.
For sure.
But to have, you know, this film kind of really take it to this next level by a fan.
There's something very sweet and heartfelt about that. And I also, what I wrote down was like, I love this kind of presentation or tour style horror where it's like
moving through the spaces.
And I can understand why that would be really unsuccessful with a lot of critics and audiences because it's like it kind of feels more like a series of vignettes than like a complete narrative. For sure. It's like you get like a cutscene and a cutscene and a cutscene almost, right? Yeah. But like I like what each of those scenes is so much and find them so visually interesting that it doesn't ruin the experience to me, that I also didn't feel like there was much connective tissue between them. Where like it kind of just feels like
they had to hire men.
Like
I look deep, look at me, deep into that lens. Listen to me, you guys.
Don't hire men.
The story will be better.
It's so true. It's so true.
Yeah.
No, I think it
it's a ride.
It's a ride.
It's kind of just a ride
very
movie.
like this happens and then this happens and then this happens, not like
here's this insane
hero's
moment.
Journey. Like
agreed.
But I really like movies that are like that. So that doesn't feel like a failure to me. It just feels like narratively this is structured much more like an art house movie than it is
100%.
like,
I think that's why I forget how dense it is every time I rewatch it, because I watch it because I want the imagery and I want the sound. That's why I want to watch it. It's because I want to see these fucked up.
It almost feels like a video installation or something. Like you could just keep it on a loop in the background and keep spotting new things in it.
For sure. Yeah.
You
That's
know?
why I think I like it so much. It's a background movie for me for those reasons. So that makes sense. But I think you watched it the same way I do then.
Hey, look at that. Yeah. So moral of the story, do watch it on 3.5 hours of sleep.
Yeah. On that note,
we'll be right back.
We know how much you love stories of horror and gore. Meet our sponsor, Beasley Books, the independent bookstore owned by author George R.R. Martin in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Beasley specializes in autographed titles, rare editions, and speculative fiction, which includes sci-fi, fantasy, and, of course, horror. You can find many authors whose adaptations we've covered at Beasley, including Stephen King, Clive Barker, and more, alongside the likes of Nick Cutter, Shirley Jackson, and Anne Rice. Visit the Santa Fe storefront Wednesday through Sunday at 418 Montezuma, or shop online anytime. I don't know why I'm Irish now, but you can find them at BeasleyBooks.com or on Instagram at BeasleyBooks418. And make sure you use code SPLICE10 to save 10% when you shop online. SPLICE10 to save 10% when you shop online. Bye.
And we're back. Oh, I'm so excited.
Oh, me too.
This is one that I have been dying to make you watch for like the past year and a half.
I feel like you haven't brought it up though. I remember I ran.
Oh, I 100%.
Maybe it finally clicked. It's my bad.
No. Not to call you out on air or
No,
anything.
it's okay. Call me out. I don't remember lots of things.
I love this film so much. I have like a couple stills from it in my lookbook. Like this is one of those like that level. It's like Candyman level for me.
Well, just to reiterate too, we were like trying to figure out something to do, and I forget what we were even. Maybe it was Silent Hill. Maybe it was something else. But I watched the trailer of Possession. It came up, and I sent it to you. I'm like, Sienna, this is like between the score and the way it looked in the trailer. I was like, Sienna, this is so you. And you're like, yeah, Al.
I was like, this is one of my favorite
And I was
movies
like,
of
that
all
makes
time.
sense. But
Yeah.
I was really intrigued by the trailer.
It's a good
and
trailer.
I was more excited to watch Possession than I was to watch Silent Hill.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Did it hold up to that?
Yes,
I'm
absolutely.
so I was so worried that you would hate it.
No.
Oh my God. Thank God. Because it's
I didn't
very
hate anything about it.
Ugh,
Except for the fact that I had no
idea what's going on.
fucking idea. I immediately, for the first time ever, had to look up what the fuck is Possession about? Because
Yep.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I watched the trailer.
Mhm.
Did not read a synopsis. Like,
Trailer
did
does
nothing.
not tell you what this movie's about,
No.
which is part of why it's such
It's
a
a
good
vibe.
trailer.
It's
Yeah.
also a vibe.
It's also a vibes-based movie.
Yeah,
It's very much a vibes-based
So,
movie. And I
yeah.
think all I told you about it going in, when we were trying to think of a pairing,
Mhm.
was I was like, this is the first good for her horror
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
this
yeah.
and Carrie, I guess, is maybe the other, but like this even more so to me. This is good for her horror.
Yeah.
Like this, there's so
yeah.
much we wouldn't have without Possession.
Really? See, I
Like-
don't know like the significance of it. So I'm excited to hear anything about it because I had to fight my inner demons
To not look it up.
sleuth the fuck out of like Reddit and everything.
I
last
was
night.
surprised by how much I was able to find, which
Really?
I was really worried because this is a West German French co-production from an exiled Polish filmmaker that it was
Yeah.
going to be like really hard to find
Yeah.
information on, especially because I think I mentioned on the last episode before this, even though I'm saying this is one of my favorite films of all time, I had only seen this once. It just impressed me
it
that
can
much. It's
Some films
that
do that, though.
effective.
We've talked about
Yeah.
that where it's like I can have those favorite films, but
Mhm.
it lives so freely
it's so
in my
viscerally
mind.
in you after
Yeah,
that one
it just like
watch.
burns
Yeah.
itself in.
Yeah.
That you're like, I'm good. I can watch it over and over.
Oh yeah, Possession lives in my head rent free now.
I think it's gonna do that to me too. I don't know if it's one I'm gonna visit all the time, but like that imagery, and
The subway
body.
scene. The
The
subway scene.
Yeah, people really need to get the fuck on.
Yeah.
Please, if you're listening, stop. I'm gonna say that
Yeah.
one time only.
Yeah.
Stop listening and go,
Go
watch
watch
this
Possession.
movie. Go
Like
watch
this
this
is,
movie.
and this one I
Amazon
think
Prime is
especially,
where I found
yeah,
it.
it's
Thank
on
you.
Amazon Prime now, thank God, because it used to be incredibly hard to find, which is I think part of why this was such an underground film. It only got restored in I believe 2022. I'll check that date in my
Wow.
notes.
Holy crap.
But it
Okay.
just got a 4K restoration then, which I think is when the Jean Cocteau played it, which is where I first saw
we have
it.
to play it again.
We have to. It was pretty.
Ooh.
I mean, when I saw it, it was like a Wednesday in November.
So I actually want to shout out because
Mhm.
something we're doing. I'm gonna like have a moment break.
Yes.
If you're local or can
Yes.
get to the Jean Cocteau Cinema in Santa Fe, we are going to be doing probably. By the time you hear this, it's already
Mhm.
happening. Every Wednesday, we're going to do punk rock karaoke.
Mhm.
But we're going to be pairing them with like weird films beforehand. So the films will be $10, karaoke free. If you want to do both, that's kind of the gist is
Mhm.
like drink and watch
yeah.
some fucked up B horror
Yeah,
or
some
something, and
fucked
then
up
do
shit.
punk rock karaoke
Yeah.
after. But we should play Possession for punk rock karaoke.
Oh my God, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels very much the vibe.
Yeah. Again, I watched
Get
it on like
weird.
an icy November Wednesday, and the theater was like pretty full. So it did well. It's a big screen experience.
It
But because of that, I
is.
thought it was going to be really hard to find. It is on Amazon Prime right now, so
Yeah,
go
watch
watch
it,
it if
for
you
sure.
haven't. But like if you listen to this podcast, I think you'll like Possession.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you like Siena Rex too,
Yeah.
this is Siena coded.
And if you liked Suspiria, you'll probably like Possession. I think they're very of a piece.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad you liked it. I was
really
terrified.
the whole time I was both what the fuck is happening and I don't care.
Yes. Yes.
You know?
And that to me is like, those are my favorite kind of movies. The kinds of
Yeah.
movies where like you don't know what's going on and the movie is so powerful that you just don't care.
Yeah.
Like meaning ceases to matter.
Yeah, the physicality in this, the music, the shots, the acting.
Mhm.
I love Sam Neill.
I think
Every
this
time
is
he
his
walked,
best
he walked
performance.
different.
Yeah.
I've never seen him like this. I've only seen
Yeah.
him in Jurassic Park.
Yeah, he
Movies.
went there for this movie.
His control of
Yeah.
his face. And I loved noting in every scene he walked different. Every single
Yes.
fucking scene, he had a different walk.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a
I
great
didn't know you could
note.
walk that many different ways.
Yeah. It's both of the lead performances in this, and let me actually pull up
Yeah,
my
yeah.
notes
I was
like
gonna say, we could gush. I could spend an hour and a half gushing
so
about
glad.
this film.
Oh, I'm so glad because this is one of those movies that I try to proselytize to people about. Like, everybody go out and watch Possession.
Yeah, I'm
Like-
going to be on that with you now.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh, ugh. So, let me start out with a tidbit. This
Okay.
is now. Thank God you love it, because
Yeah,
now
yeah,
now I
yeah.
have to give you bad news. It's
Oh.
getting remade, and but you might actually. I'm curious to hear your reaction to this. So, last year, 2024, there was an Indonesian remake of Possession. And a month later, after that hit theaters in Indonesia, on the tail of the Indonesian remake, which is a weird thing to tie this to,
Yeah.
but just noting that that's how it happened, there's an announcement that this remake is in development with Robert Pattinson producing and the fucking director of Smile, Parker Finn, writing and directing. And here's where this gets even weirder, y'all. This film created a bidding war.
Whoa.
Is it? And I was going through like the trade papers from this
Yeah.
time last year, and so it sparks a bidding war, gets picked up at Paramount, and there are quotes in the press of the executives at Paramount basically like drooling over what commercial potential this project has.
Wild.
What a world. If you've seen this film, and as we go into talking about the profits it made, what its reception was like, the world that Possession came into in 1981, the idea of it now being seen by executives at Paramount as like a big blockbuster opportunity, wild.
But you know what that shows to
Mhm.
me? Even take The Substance. You haven't seen it.
Yeah. This is
If
what I
you
was
would have
thinking.
told me, say that was a remake, if
Right.
you would have told me this in the same way,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of goes to show where horror is moving. And if
Yeah.
you have like, I also think Robert Pattinson is a perfect person. He's a
He,
weirdo.
I trust.
He is
I-
weird.
Mm-hmm. And I think,
Um,
I don't know, he's definitely producing. It's not clear if he'd act in it. I'd assume he
But-
would.
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
he'd-
Even
I think,
if he had any, I don't know. I just feel like he's such a weird creative. Like I know he's like big, like A-list celebrity,
but
but
I trust
he,
his vibes a bit.
Yeah, he's done weird
Smile
stuff.
director though, I've not seen Smile, so
I've
that's
seen
maybe
the
not
first
fair
one,
for me to judge.
and I really do like the first. But I think
Mm.
it goes to
Is
show.
it weird enough?
It goes to show that we're. I mean, kind of.
Okay,
That we're moving in this genre of horror,
Yeah.
where we want
we
experimental.
want weirder shit, which
and
does
it's doing
really
good.
excite me. Like, there's a part of me that's like, how the fuck can this be happening? And there's another part of me that's like, we're living in a world
Where
where a
this
Possession remake
is
is sparking a
bidding
bidding war.
Wild.
That's kind of based.
Yeah.
Like,
Even 5 years ago, I
would not have happened.
I
it
mean,
would not have
in a
happened.
post-COVID world,
Yeah,
the art that's coming out of it,
We're craving weirder shit,
yeah,
and I love
So,
it. So
that's wild, though.
yeah,
I would not. Yeah,
so just had to
only because I have context now. I can sit with that and be okay with it. But
but it's so bizarre,
it's
right?
weird.
So
Yeah.
anyway, just
It's a
put
weird
that in
movie,
your
man.
pocket as we start talking about the original. So this is I practiced saying this director's name so many times yesterday.
Oh, gosh.
I have it phonetically written in my notes. I know I'm going to start doing it wrong over the course of it, but it is Andrzej Żuławski.
Żuławski. Why
It's
was that easy
spelled
for me?
Zulawski.
See, if you say so, it's hard when
Yeah.
reading notes.
It looks very, because it's Polish, it looks
Yeah.
very different than it's pronounced, but Żuławski. So, Polish director has a reputation for being very anti-commercial, very
Mm.
kind of at odds with the Polish government, and he's made a lot of kind of very Instagrammed and Tumblr films. Like, I remember there were a
Ooh.
lot of stills and GIFs from Possession that I saw floating around the internet before I ever got to watch the movie.
It feels like it. Yeah. That makes
And
sense.
his other film that's been very much the case for is called On the Silver Globe, which is a
Mm.
sci-fi adaptation of his great uncle's work that was gonna be financed or partially financed by the Polish government, got shut down by the Polish government and put on hold for a decade,
Wow.
during which time he went into oh my god, what's the word? 3.5 hours of sleep. He went to
into
France.
3.5 hours. of sleep.
he went into 3.5 hours of sleep. He went to France because he couldn't continue making films the way he wanted to in his home country. And so this is made during that exile. That's the word I'm looking for. Great.
I was just giggles all around.
Thanks,
I would
guys.
have not been helpful with that word. So
Good. Good.
You got there. So proud. Very
Things
proud
are
of you,
happening.
Sienna.
Thanks, guys. I need it. I really need it.
We're all rooting for you.
So, this is produced during Zhivovsky's kind of period of exile. I believe he never, after Silver Globe, that's released in 88, but he was filming it in the 70s, and I think after that he never goes back home to Poland to make movies. He
Wow.
only films elsewhere. As I mentioned, this is a West German and French co-production, shot in English. It's his only film in English.
Wow. I wasn't sure if it was gonna, when I watched the trailer, I was like, is Sam Neill gonna speak English and no
Right.
one else is? Does
Yeah.
Sam Neill know how to speak another language?
Well,
I
and
wasn't
like,
sure.
is this going to be like a giallo where
Yeah.
it's like actors who speak a bunch of different languages dubbed over?
It felt
Like
very
that would
giallo.
yes. Well, we're going to talk about one of the creatives behind this project also had a very important role in Deep Red, but we'll get to that later.
Sweet.
So
Love.
yes, there are some giallo connections.
Amazing.
As I mentioned, Zhivovsky, this kind of very sort of like enfant terrible director, bad boy, but he wrote this while he himself was getting a divorce. So there's a lot of
You don't
there's a lot
say.
of biographical
Sienna.
material that comes into play in this.
It felt like it came from a real place.
Yeah, and I also. This is kind of dumb of me, but I just had to bring in a picture of Zhivovsky at this period because
Yes,
I
please.
think it helps you understand.
Wait, why does he kind of look hot?
That's the point I was going to make.
That is a wildly. Oh, he looks like he'd ruin your life, but like
Yes.
you'd like it a little
Yeah,
bit.
which is exactly what he does to the actors, which makes sense of so much
I'm
about
gonna
like
show-
I think you really need to understand how hot this man is to understand
Travis, look at
how he got
look
this
how
movie
hot
to
this man
happen.
is. Everybody,
He's
look if you're
so
watching.
hot, you
Look.
guys.
If not, we'll post on.
Yeah. Oh,
this will be our profile photo.
And I found so many. He is every single photo of this man. He may be the most photogenic director we've ever covered.
Yeah, Jesus
So,
Christ, that's rude.
Yeah. So this dude is going through
Well,
a divorce
damn.
and processing it, and this is the movie that ensues. So just like, I genuinely
Hot and
think.
talented.
I
Probably
genuinely
an
think that's
asshole, but-
important context for this movie.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
So,
Yeah, it makes it so much like sexier. Just not.
well, especially once we get into the stories from set, just like keep that
Yeah, this
picture in
movie's-
mind.
Yeah, this movie it hit sexual points that I wasn't.
It's kind of
expecting it to.
hot.
It is.
It's kind of hot.
Yeah,
Like it shouldn't be,
yeah.
but it is.
It is.
It's hot in a gross way, which I love.
It's hot in a like fucked up way that if you're not with the right company,
Mhm.
you should not say that to them.
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
keep it
So
to
let's
yourself.
just go on the record to 60 countries saying that on air. Great.
Yeah, we think it's odd.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so I only wrote down info about the main two cast members because I really only care about them.
Sure.
Like
It
there-
mainly is.
there are a
And
couple
Bob.
of supporting characters. There's Bob,
Bob.
there's Margie, but like honestly, I don't care about them.
Her and her little heel cast was
The
what a
little heel
cunt,
sticking
a
out
little
the bottom
cunty
of it.
bitch. I loved
know.
her. What
Margie
an
is an icon.
She is.
Um,
That'd be a great cosplay. just
she's
saying that.
giving Mrs. Mac from Black Christmas. She has Mrs. Mac energy. Yeah.
Maybe that was Mrs. Mac when she was younger.
Yes, like I feel like that's who that character ages into. Okay, so our two leads, we have
Mm.
Isabelle Adjani as Anna/Helen.
Stunning. Mesmerizing to watch on screen.
I think one of the most beautiful actresses of all time.
Yeah, she's wild.
Also just one of the most talented actresses of all time, and the scream queen. There will never be a scream queen to top Isabelle Adjani's performance in Possession to me.
Yeah, she's really.
It is the pinnacle.
Yeah, she's wild to watch.
She was also in The Story of Adele H. She's in The Tenant, which is a Polanski movie. She was in Camille Claudel. And of course, she was in Werner Herzog's Nosferatu, which is why her face will be floating around your timelines a little bit more
That
at the
makes
moment.
sense. Okay.
She's also the record holder for the most César Awards, which is the French Oscars.
Oh my gosh.
She's gotten 5, including one for this role.
Holy shit.
She is quite a baddie, is Isabelle. We have Sam Neill as Mark. Of course, he's Grant in Jurassic Park. He's Alistair in The Piano. He's in Mouth of Madness, Dead Calm, The Hunt for Red October. Oh, that's helpful, Sienna. I just wrote one of the reasons. Oh, Oh, no. I was saying one of the reasons you were excited for this one
Oh,
is
because Sam
because
Neill.
of Sam Neill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, what is this?
What did I
I
say
was.
here?
I was very excited because I've never like seen him in something like this. So, and I've never seen like a young version, like
He's a baby in this.
baby.
And
I think he's like 35 is what I looked up. I had to look it up. I had to look
So
it up because I was like, he
young.
looks so
Yeah.
young. I'm 35, so
he's a baby.
he's a baby.
He's a baby.
Yeah.
Just a little baby.
Shut it, Warren.
But like he is, I think this again is the best Sam Neill performance I've ever seen, and I brought in a bunch of quotes from his
Insane.
autobiography talking about this film
Really?
because this to him is one of the most important films of his career,
It should be.
and he's written a lot about the experience of making it.
Oh, I
So
love hearing that.
mhm.
He's such a delicate man.
I know. Yeah, he's like a little flower.
Yeah.
A little delicate flower. Yeah.
Once upon a time when I was on TikTok, now
Yeah,
we're still on there, but
Yeah.
you looking to move off.
grumpily.
He like he creates a lot of music and stuff, and I feel like I don't know, it was a
Mhm.
nice side of him that I saw that like this role makes
Yeah.
sense for him now that
It-
and
it
again
tracks, yeah.
yeah.
hmm I wanted to shout out also that this was produced by a woman, which I think is an interesting thing to talk about for a film made in 1981. Her
Love.
name's Marie-Laure. It's Reyre. I don't know.
Mhm.
And hilariously, given how many episodes I've talked about like the glories of Polish cinematographers, this is a Polish director who chooses to not work with a Polish cinematographer.
Oh my god, of course. God damn it.
The cinematographer is French. His name is Bruno Neuten. I don't know how it's pronounced, but it's Nuytten. And he himself goes on to direct Adjani in Camille Claudel, which I just mentioned.
Oh.
And at the time of this film, Isabelle Adjani and the DP were married and get divorced around the time that the film is released. So
Oh,
in 1981.
a lot of
So
turmoil.
some real art imitates
Yeah,
life shit
for
going
sure.
on here. Zhivovsky kind of describes this as being intended as like a fairy tale for adults, which is always kind of my favorite sort of horror movie. It's very like very David Lynch, R.I.P., very Guillermo del Toro type of vibe, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
And so moving into talking about the writing of this, Zhivovsky essentially writes like 20 pages of the script. And then he reaches out to Danielle Thompson, who's a screenwriter that he respects, to be like, will you help me flesh this out? And she's like, this isn't for me. It's too weird. But I have a friend who I think would really vibe
I have
with
this weird
this."
friend
Yeah,
that I could pass you
yeah.
off to.
And so she connects him to Frederick Tooten, who is an American novelist, screenwriter, visual artist, who's written a lot of very heady stuff with titles like The Adventures of Mao on the Long March and Van Gogh's Bad Cafe.
Oh god.
So feels
Okay.
like the right pairing for this
just
guy,
a
right?
weirdo. I just imagine like chain smoking
Yeah.
cigarettes in a place where he's not allowed to
100%.
smoke cigarettes in.
He's from, I think, the Bronx.
Mhm.
And so the two of them work together. Tooten gets co-writer credit on the dialogue and adaptation. Zhivovsky keeps sole credit for the original screenplay. So, and part of this is also Zhivovsky speaks English.
Mm.
He's not super comfortable writing in English. So I think a lot of what
Was just, like,
Tooten
not big
does
enough.
is helping flesh out Zhivovsky's like, here's these ideas I want to talk about. And he's helping him articulate it in English in a way that makes
Awesome.
more sense. So, as I mentioned, very autobiographical. Zhivovsky isn't just post-divorce and post having his films shut down by his own government. He's also wildly suicidally depressed at the time that he's going
Oh,
into making
man.
this. And his usual tactic is when he gets suicidally depressed, he starts making another film to get back the will to live, which wouldn't know anything about that one. But he's like, this time it's not working.
Oh, God.
So that in itself kind of becomes part of the story, I think. Like there's, again, all these kind of art imitates life layers start happening. So he's also cribbing very specific events from his real relationship, like the scene where Sam Neill comes home and his kid is just like covered in jam and alone in the apartment. Really happened. He came home and his ex had been gone for hours and the kid is just like home alone covered in jam. And he's like,
That part
that's
was, like-
horrifying.
Yeah. It
Um,
is. They don't really. I feel like you never see stuff like that.
Yeah.
Especially in like westernized cinema.
For
like they would be like absolutely
sure.
not.
Yeah, it's like It's such an interesting thing because it's one of the most upsetting scenes in a movie where a woman tries to carve her own neck open with a meat cutter.
Oh yeah, it didn't
Like,
bother me as much as like, oh my god, that poor kid's been there. And I
because
don't even
it
like
feels so
kids.
real. Because it's so real, right? And I think that's part of what is so unsettling about Jodorowsky's films is like he pushes things farther than a lot of filmmakers would. He also, one of the other influences to throw into the mix here, he had shortly before starting the screenplay watched Ingmar Bergman's Scenes from a Marriage and was like,
that
makes perfect
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
he's like, have you seen it? Have you seen Scenes from a Marriage? Okay. But I mean, I'm sure you can imagine it's like the breakdown of a marriage from
is that the
Ingmar
one?
Bergman.
Is it was there the remake on
yes.
HBO?
Yes. Yes.
Is
yes.
that one? No, that can't be. It was 80s. Oh my god. Is it based off of?
That one's
I've
also based off of the Bergman.
I've seen
Yes.
the Oscar Isaac
Okay,
version.
perfect. Yeah, so you know what it's about.
Ooh.
Yeah. So he'd watched
Okay.
the original that's
So there's
based
that.
on and was like, this is cool, but it's missing something. And what does he think it's missing?
It's so funny because that's exactly what it fucking reminded of. Okay, what
So
was it
funny.
missing?
He's like,
Spacemen.
it's missing monsters.
Yeah. From space?
Yes.
Right?
So,
Are they from space?
question mark?
I didn't know if you knew. Yeah, yeah. They were
I
like,
don't know if Zhavovsky knows, to be
cool.
honest.
Okay, great. We're the same level then.
Yeah. We're all in the dark here with him.
Yeah.
Him and his giant 70s mustache. But like I also just had to shout that out because you know that I love a Bergman based horror movie, and the last time we talked about one of those was Last House on the Left being based on the Virgin Spring. So
yes. I was like, when did we mention that?
which was
Yeah.
around this time last year. So interesting little full circle moment there. Themes, approach, and history. Obviously, you can't talk about this movie without talking about the Berlin Wall. The whole movie takes place
Yeah.
in front of the Berlin Wall. It's also a movie about divorce, set at the breaking point of a city that's been divided in half, so the wall becomes this analog for the relationship. But it's also part of the reason Zhavovsky chose to shoot this there, was that this is kind of the closest point to the Eastern Bloc that
Oh.
he can reach in the Western world. Without actually going back to Poland, without breaking the exile,
It's
you
so
know.
wild.
So he gets up to the very edge of the wall with his camera and can't go over to the other side,
Ugh.
which just it
adds,
adds.
yeah.
It adds. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Talked about On the Silver Globe getting banned. If you want to read more about kind of the Cold War analogs going on in this movie and some like good heady film theory on that, shout out to Bartolomiej Paźlik, who I've quoted
love
one
him.
other time on the podcast, in the Sleepaway Camp episode, which he also wrote about.
Oh.
He has this book called The Pleasure and Pain of Cult Horror Films that's like it fucks.
Okay. Yeah.
It fucks.
Yeah. Might have to find
Yeah.
that
So
one.
I think if you're into a film theory rant corner, I feel like that one
Maybe
that's a book that might be up your alley. This shot in West Berlin in 1980, mostly in the Kreuzberg district, which is right next to the wall, obviously. Production lasts 12 weeks. They start in early July, so it goes like summer into fall, which is it's kind of in between. It's short compared to something like The Shining, which is being made the same year and is also using early Steadicam technology, which is one of the big visual parallels between these two films. They're kind of two horror movies that come out kind of one right after the other, making use of this ghostly drifting camera. So short compared to that, long compared to something like Sleepaway Camp. But do you want to take a stab at the budget?
Oh my god, I can't even imagine. Like $1 million.
Not far off. It was about 2.4. Reports that I see.
Okay.
So not huge. I imagine, I'm not 100% sure about this, but my bet would be that because of economic depression in the area, costs to shoot in West Berlin were probably pretty low. So they probably got a lot more production value, especially with things like blowing up a building and stuff like that. Probably a lot easier to do in West Berlin in 1980 for cheaper.
A wild time to be shooting there.
Truly. And it just, the wall is such a presence in this movie. Like it really, I know it's like it's a cliche, but like the wall is a character. Moving into the cast and crew, Adjani was the director and producer's first choice for the role, but there was this interesting kind of like little accidental waltz that happened with the casting there, where so Adjani's career is in kind of an interesting point at the time that this is being cast, because she tried to make the transition over to Hollywood movies in 1978 with this movie called The Driver, and it did terribly at the box office.
Oh.
And so then she returns to European art house movies with Nosferatu. But so then when she gets offered this part, her management turns it down, which my guess is that they're probably like, we're trying to get her over to America. She just did another European art house movie. You're not Werner Herzog. Why are we going to do this now?
Yeah.
So her management turns it down. Zhivovsky then reaches out to Judy Davis, who just starred alongside Sam Neill in this movie called My Brilliant Career, which is part of, I believe, what he cast Sam off of. But Judy is kind of like going back and forth on whether or not she wants to take the part, which is understandable. This requires a lot of commitment out of an actress.
I would love to read what the script.
Oh my god,
you know
I'm
what I mean?
so
Like,
curious. What was on the
it's
page?
So visual.
Yeah, it's. I
Yeah.
would.
I can't
what
imagine
I
reading it and
wouldn't
being like,
give.
yeah, that sounds like a great idea immediately.
Yeah. So it's. And at the same time, when the director looks like that and he's sitting you down and he's like, this is going to make your career, which we'll talk about
I'd be
how
like,
he
yeah,
convinces
then,
her.
sure, whatever
Yeah.
you want.
So we'll get into that in a second.
That mustache.
But truly. So, oh my God. So Adjani comes back. She decides to take the role. She really gives it her all.
Yeah, no shit.
And I just want to trigger warning here. I'm just going to put out that according to Zhivovsky, after watching, so it's very common that actors a lot of the time don't like to watch their performances while they're acting,
Yeah.
right? Can get you two in your head.
Yep.
Adjani is one of those performers, so she chose not to watch dailies as they were shooting.
Yeah.
Partially because she wants to not be caught up in what she looks like as she's doing it.
A role like this, I could see
Yeah.
being in your head about every micro movement that you're
100%.
doing, or
Especially
just
because it's not
trust yourself.
it's not always flattering, you
Oh
know?
no,
It's
no.
it's that's part of the whole point. And
Yeah.
so according to him, when he shows her kind of the rough cut of the film,
Yeah.
she has a suicide attempt.
Oh, no.
Because she's like, oh my God, what have I done? What have I made? Like, I just went so far.
And I
in
bet her
this.
management too is like,
Yeah.
probably yelling at her in the background.
Oh
not
my
even
God, I
taking
can
it.
only
So it's like,
imagine.
you ruined your career, and
Yeah.
now you'd look like this. And
Yeah,
blah, blah,
and like,
blah.
there's never been another movie like this before or since. Like, there's
Honestly.
nothing like Isabelle Adjani in Possession. So,
The set of this had to feel. I feel like everyone had to go home and just drink a bottle of.
oh my God, I
something
can
every
only
night.
imagine.
I can't
Yeah.
imagine you felt good.
It
Anyone
was
felt good making
a
this, but like
very intense experience. But everybody seemed like they were very like on board for
committed.
that.
Everyone on this
Um,
crew was fucked up. That's
Yeah,
why.
truly.
I would have loved being on it.
Oh my God, to be a fly on the wall in that subway.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So,
Poor baby.
Just giving that context, that's kind of one of the most unpleasant things that we're going to hear about the set of this movie. But
She is it like midway through or like early on, did she have kind of
so that's after she's already completed the role.
Oh, she's completed it. Okay.
It's so she doesn't watch anything until he like shows her a rough cut, and she watches the
Got
rough
it.
cut and she's like, "Oh fuck,"
Oh,
which I can
no.
only imagine. Like that's a really intense
I bet
thing to have seen none of it, and then you know she's in almost every shot of this movie. Like it's
Yeah. I gotta think too, probably taking this role affected her and she didn't realize.
She said that it took her years to recover from the process of making this, and she doesn't even say that in necessarily like a blaming the director way, just in like I went so far on this.
Well, also you said she got a divorce
Mhm.
at the time of the premiere, and I
Y-
wonder
and
if this
she
had her I wonder if this role made her realize
that
things that she didn't like have
that her
in-
marriage was ending to the
Yeah.
cinematographer of this movie. I can only imagine. Yeah, so like it makes sense
It's
why
layered.
Isabelle Adjani is having a very complicated experience on this film. But so just wanted to shout that out. Okay, so moving into the making of, I wanted to start out with a quote from Zhivovsky about that subway scene because that's the scene
That's
that makes
the
the movie.
scene,
That is
yeah.
the scene. So and I found this it is not a word for word quote because this was from an interview given by Zhivovsky to a Russian radio station in
whoa,
like
so
the
it's like-
90s that I pulled an auto translate on. So there are going to be things that are a little bit off here. I then found another article that quoted what I think is the same thing, but just recognize that this is a translated quote.
Okay.
So, he said there were 2 takes. This scene was filmed at 5 in the morning when the subway was closed. I knew it was worth a lot of effort for Adjani, both emotionally and physically, because it was cold there, which, God, I can only imagine.
Yeah. A little smelly, probably.
Truly, I mean, it's so filthy.
dank.
Especially at the end when she's like tossed the milk on the walls and then is like rolling around in the dirty milk. Like,
Yeah.
gross.
Yeah.
Gross. Both emotionally and physically, because it was cold there. It was unthinkable to repeat the scene endlessly, which I think is an important thing to like recognize, is like that's the difference between Javovsky and Kubrick. Kubrick would have taken the scene and be like, okay, now we're going to do 125 takes.
Actual mental breakdown,
we're going to
please.
stay down in the subway for a week and a half, and we're going to make her sleep
8 hours
there.
a day.
Like,
Yeah, for sure.
So he says it's unthinkable to repeat the scene endlessly. Most of what's left on the screen is the first take.
Wow.
The second take was made as a safety net, as is customary when shooting difficult scenes, for example, in case the laboratory spoils the material. So basically what you get is Isabelle Adjani, one take wonder, just going at it.
It kind of felt like she did, because it almost seems like at some point, and not in a bad way, it seems like at some point she almost like checked in off screen. There was like one moment where it seemed like she kind of was like, do I keep going? I don't know if that was like with herself or with the crew, where she was like looking for like, do you need more? Yeah. Like, do I go? I don't know. There was something about it that seemed,
that's so interesting.
this all played as like theater for me.
Very
too.
much.
So
very much.
It felt like we were like, someone was acknowledged.
Yeah, like,
there.
well, and like you're seeing something happen live. Like it really feels like you're watching it like unfold in real time, even though there are cuts. It's very like,
it almost,
you're there with her.
I'm gonna be honest, I feel like I don't remember the cuts because I was just
It's
like,
so,
holy crap.
It's just, you're so caught up in the flow of it.
Yeah.
And it's all from that one take, so it's just discontinuous time jumps. It's not like cuts between different angles, because there's no coverage of this. There's no coverage, which I love. I love it. I fucking love it. So for that scene, again, okay, got your picture of Javovsky in your head?
Yes.
Got the mustache?
Yes.
Got the like intense look?
The brooding look, yes.
Mm-hmm. You're down in the subway with him, it's 5 a.m, there's nobody else around.
Oh God.
What direction does he give you for this scene? He tells you,
Be sexy.
he tells you, fuck the air. Yeah.
I feel like I'm blushing.
I know. So here's
I'm like, did you see me like look around like the red lights?
Yeah. Did it just get hotter in here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck the air.
Oh my gosh. I mean,
it worked.
Yeah.
She sure did.
Yeah.
That air got fucked.
That air got fucked.
That air done been fucked. So here's speaking more about, I think maybe this goes a little bit to the quality of the performance you're talking about. Here's something from the British Film Institute's article on Javovsky when he died, kind of summarizing his career. Javovsky's method of working with actors evolved out of watching the experimental theater work of Jerzy Grotowski, as well as trips he made to Haiti to witness voodoo rites. He would admit to putting his cast, especially actresses who he believed needed to be liberated from themselves, under trances to prepare them for their scenes. And he goes into this a little bit more in that Russian interview where he talks about, like, I'm not doing like full-on hypnosis on people. I just have what he describes as like a couple little tricks up my sleeve to relax them, but I'm not going to tell you what they are. And I'm like, what does that mean?
Listen, someone that's that attractive, they've got, there's something that's got to be wrong with them. So I'm sure he was like doing things that were
There's like a little bit of a psychopath quality.
Yeah. Well, he's the Sampaku eyes.
So true.
That's why.
Now that you've taught me what that is. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, you know.
So just what a scene.
Well, it sounds like too, he was battling so many things. Did he pass away from what did he pass away from?
I'm not sure actually. Great question.
Like he might have
I'm
driven himself to a point where
I think he died. He was in like his late 60s, early 70s, but I don't know what he died of.
Yeah. But
he's a troubled man. Troubled man. And he had like a very long hiatus in his career and died right around the time he was working on a new project, which is like just coming back out of retirement. So it's quite tragic.
Yeah.
Or not, depending on how you feel about him.
Yeah,
I find it quite tragic.
Yeah.
he kind of described the aesthetic approach he was going for as like a surrealist clean quality, which I thought was a really
Ooh,
interesting
for
description.
sure.
And a lot of
Oh, wow.
so much of it comes down to the cinematography and lighting, which like this is one of the very few horror movies that I've seen specifically not only the director, but many of the articles and kind of analyses written of it after the fact
Mhm.
specifically highlight the lighting, which is not something that's talked about that much outside of like noir, or if you're an expert
You
in
gotta
that.
watch. You really do have to watch Substance.
I
You
need
really
to
do.
watch The Substance.
Because it feels also like a clean surrealist film
Ooh,
as
I
well.
love that. Well, and also obviously like in conversation with Kubrick style, and like I think it looks to me like a lot of the substances on Steadicam too. Which, if I remember correctly, I might be getting the dates of this wrong. I believe the Steadicam was invented in 79 and first really put
wild.
into use in 79, 80, because I know that The Shining was one of the first movies to really make widespread use of it, and that was released in 80. And again, this is shooting in 80. So it's right at the very beginning of that technology.
That's the time frame, because it just seems like one of those things
It
that's
seems
existed.
so ubiquitous
Yeah,
now, but
yeah.
it was hard
Yeah.
back then.
Yeah.
It was real hard in the early Steadicam days. Of course, this is also a creature feature. And I
didn't know that.
Uh-huh.
I just reached like a whole new level of like, what the fuck? This is like that.
It's everything.
Really, I think that was
Yeah.
like the solidification. Like it was already weird, but I just didn't know what to expect. And seeing that, I was like, okay.
The moment where you
On board.
first see the creature, and then the camera comes back to Adjani and she's like, he's very tired. He's been making love to me all night last night. It's just like, we're never gonna get a moment that good in cinema again. Like, it's so good.
It just took on a whole new life from there for me.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it really went into real fucked up territory.
Yep.
Which I
So,
loved.
well, and I love that this is a film that has opening credits, which obviously we don't have as many of those anymore.
Yeah.
And there is an opening credit for The Creature by, which I love that it gives you up front a little hint that there's gonna be something, but you blink and you miss it.
I missed it.
That's so funny.
I wouldn't think to pay attention. And sometimes
of
with opening
course.
credits, I don't like to see stuff
For
because
sure.
I don't like it to.
Because it can give stuff away, like that there's a creature. But
Because then I
it's
would have
an-
been looking out the whole
Oh,
time.
absolutely. And I remember when I watched it for the first time, because I was at the Jean Cocteau and saw it on the big screen. When I saw The Creature by, I was like, ooh, there's a creature?
But I love to, even if it did say that, I guess to a point I probably would have not known, because I was like, is it demon possession? Is it alien invasion? Is it something like Invasion of the Body Snatchers?
It's
type
very
thing?
Body Snatchers coded in some
Yeah,
ways.
it could have been anything for me, like possession. I also was like, is this not have any of those elements? And he's possessive of her as
he's
a possession.
possessing her.
And so I was like, it could just be like a very human murder thing too. So
Very
I
much.
didn't know what direction. It was
You
like
can
one
interpret
of
it
three.
in so many different, especially because it's also like a spy thriller, and so like there's so many different layers on which to read
This
it.
one's it was way more dense than anticipated.
But two really dense films, these two. So I had to take a moment to talk about the creature design.
Yes, please.
Because the artist responsible for that monster, which you may love it, you may hate the monster.
Love it. Absolutely.
I
Love it. Are you
loved
kidding
it.
me?
I recognize that it's basically just like a giant penis with tentacles.
I mean, yeah. Is that what his head looked like?
Yeah. That's what I thought, at least.
I mean, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I know it's like based on a squid, because like, or like an octopus, because I think
read Kraken is what
people, it's very aquatic.
Yeah.
But
Phallic,
just like
very
an
phallic.
aquatic penis creature.
Yeah.
So
his head was
you can love it, you can hate it. I love it.
I
Al
loved
loved
it.
Y'all may hate it, but
I don't think so.
I think it's amazing. And it
Yeah.
was designed by Italian special effects master Carlo Rambaldi, whose
Ooh.
name may not be familiar, but his work definitely is, because he built the original animatronic head for the original Alien. He also
phallic.
I mean, he's working with Geiger. Everything is either phallic or vaginal. Everything is genitals. He also worked on King Kong. He worked on David Lynch's Dune. He did creature designs for that. He did E.T. the Extraterrestrial. And
Okay.
he worked on Deep Red.
That's where the deep red connection came in.
Mm-hmm.
No way. That all makes so much sense.
Right? It's
So if you like any of those movies,
yeah.
watch Possession.
Watch Possession.
The whole time. Just
Truly.
fully. Yeah.
Like it's
Wow.
it very much once you know that it feels like this creature is designed by the guy who did
Oh,
the alien
100%.
head from Alien.
100%.
Like yeah. Here's a quote from Sam Neill for you. Because he well, so according to his autobiography, he was so upset about having to slap Adjani that she had to like intervene and tell him to do it. She was like, "No, the scene needs this, dude."
They look like they did not want to slap each other.
They really,
Those slaps at some points were pitiful.
I know. They really don't want
That's
to
how
hurt
they're
each
like-
other, which is like very sweet.
Yeah. Okay. That makes
So
sense.
they were she had to like basically beg and cajole him to like
Yeah.
actually do it, and then they get 3 takes, and then he goes and cries in the stairwell for like 15 minutes.
No.
What a baby.
He's so
sweet. And here's his kind of quote on
Okay.
Possession. He says, "I call it the most extreme film I've ever made in every possible respect."
Yeah.
And he asked of us things I wouldn't and couldn't go to now. And I think I only just escaped that film with my sanity barely intact.
Wow. I mean, yeah.
I'm sure, but he also goes on to say it's one of the best films he's ever been in, and that he doesn't think it could be made today, which is part of why I'm like, remake? Can you go as far as Zhavovsky was able to?
I don't know.
I don't
know.
know.
I just don't think you can imitate that again.
Yeah,
I think
you have to
they'll-
take a different approach.
I think it'll introduce people to Possession is what I really think. And
That's
people
what I
will go,
Yeah.
and then watch it, and I think they'll realize
That's
how
what
amazing.
I hope. I hope it makes people go back to the original.
Yeah.
But here's another quote from Sam. He said, "With Zhavovsky, you would do whatever it was he wanted." And although that makes me sound like a classic victim of abuse, which in a sense I think we were, it was more than that. We had complete belief in him as an artist, and we wanted to make this thing, whatever it was. We really wanted to be in this thing, and he has capital T on this thing.
Ooh.
We were making something bigger than ourselves, which very much like sounds like he kind of like created a cult almost. Like,
I mean, kind
and
of.
like,
when you
I
get
want
on
to
sets.
join.
Yeah.
You know?
I think though. Oh, is there more of the quote?
No,
I don't
no,
wanna cut
that's
you
it.
off.
Yeah.
But yeah, kind of. Like it sounds like he came from like, Zhavovsky. Is that his name? He came from such this real place that I think as an actor, a younger actor too, like willing. You read the script. You obviously like you signed on. You know this is
you
gonna
know
be
what
weird.
this is. Yeah.
And to have, I'm sure he was just like, it had to have been such a unique experience to like have.
Totally.
You know what I mean? To be a director that wants to make this and like wrote it and has this vision, and to be an actor to play it and be
and get to go all the way. Like to
I'm
take
sure
it
he
to
just
the
like
extremes.
shoved them, and I can't imagine it was like a quote good experience. Like you said, I sound like a victim of abuse. Maybe I was. I'm sure
it kind of it doesn't sound like it was
healthy.
morally like it doesn't sound healthy, and at the same time everybody kind of talks about it looking back with this like almost sense of awe.
Yeah.
And it's very different from the way you hear like Shelley Duvall talk about the experience of The Shining.
Yeah. It sounds like they had autonomy.
Yes. And I also think, again, it's really important to note that he's like, I'm only going to get 2 takes of this really intense scene. Like,
that's true too. Yeah. He wasn't like, abusing in that way, but the material in itself.
The material in itself is so intense.
You have to go somewhere dark and weird.
Yeah, that he's like, I'm going to take you to the worst possible place, but I'm going to take you there for the shortest possible time. Yeah. And I think if you're trying to make a movie like Possession, that may be kind of the best you can morally do. Yeah. I don't know. He could do morally better, but
Gosh.
But it's interesting, and I do think it's like he kind of sounds like an asshole, but I think is a more complicated case than some of the other asshole directors we've talked about.
Yeah.
So let's see. I lost my place.
You can't be like a happy, fun, light person and make a film like this.
No.
You just can't.
Also, I'm gonna make a joke here as somebody with Polish family members and who spent a lot of time studying Polish film. I don't know that I've seen many happy Polish filmmakers. Most Polish films that I've watched, pretty sad.
Yeah.
But okay, let's see. I want to give you some Adjani quotes.
Yeah.
Because I love her so much. She said, "Possession is only the type of film you can do when you are young. Zhivovsky is a director who makes you sink into his world of darkness and his demons. It's okay when you are young because you're excited to go there. His movies are very special, but they totally focus on women as if they are lilies. It was quite an amazing film to do, but I got bruised inside out. It was exciting to do. It was no bones broken, but it was like, how or why did I do that? I don't think any other actors ever did 2 films with him, which is a really interesting point. So, again, complicated dude. And he's also, I watched a couple of late career interviews with him where he's extremely mean about her plastic surgery, which is just like, what a catty bitch.
Yeah.
But he also in the same interview reflects on her suicide attempt and on kind of some of these quotes that she's brought forward about like, this was a really hard project for me. He reflects back on those and he's like, I think that was a failure on my part. And he says basically, he's like, when you're getting somebody to that place, it's your fault as the director if somebody is that fucked up by your set, because that means that I failed to notice something.
Okay.
And I'm like, that more
Like an
accountability.
asshole who intends well, but
Yeah.
doesn't always get there.
Doesn't always get there, but like that's a lot more accountability than we usually see from the people pulling this shit
From
on set.
Male directors, yes.
Exactly. Yeah. So again, just a really complicated gray area dude.
Wish there was a making
So
of
hot.
featurette on this.
Truly. Yeah. So this release premiered at the 34th Cannes Film Festival. Got banned in the UK shortly after its release there as, you guessed it, a video nasty.
Yep.
This is the nastiest of videos.
Yeah,
Like
this one's really fucked up.
it deserves it, honestly.
Yeah.
And the American release, which didn't even come out until 1983,
That's why we saw like the discrepancy on the release. Okay.
arguably even worse because it cut the movie down to just 81 minutes. So you're losing like 40 something minutes of film.
Oh my
and it cuts out almost all of the divorce plot. So it's basically just the body horror,
Oh.
which makes like almost no sense and got ripped apart by the critics because it's basically just like 81 minutes of Isabelle Adjani screaming. You
Yeah,
know,
I
like-
was gonna say, and just staring really intensely.
Yeah, which like I would love that, but I can
Yeah.
understand why maybe that doesn't work as well.
Oh my god, that's wild. I
Really
would actually
interesting.
love to watch to
I'm-
see what the fuck
I'm
that's
super
about.
curious, right? Like I'm sure it's
Just
terrible.
don't even release it then.
Yeah,
Jesus
exactly.
Christ. Butcher the movie.
Truly. I couldn't find good box office figures for this one.
I
Apparently
imagine.
it made about 1 million back at US box office,
Okay.
but that's also not its origin country. It's not the proper cut of the film. It's 2 years later.
There's
so like
so many things against it.
there's so much, it's really hard to pin down the numbers, but basically like I don't know if it fully even made its budget back. Like
Yeah.
it really did not do well.
Yeah.
But then again, it's also a European art house movie being released in English, which I kind of think is a really hard sell.
I was gonna say you can't at that time. How would you even market this?
It's
Like how?
almost unmarketable.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what do you? Oh my god!
Oh no.
It's
Coffee
so
down.
unmarketable that I just tossed coffee all over our rug. I will
Just wipe it on the rug.
just wipe it
just
off
wipe
of
it
my
on the
foot.
rug.
Perfect. Sorry, everybody.
You just gonna let it sit on here.
You know what? Honestly,
Do we need to pause for you?
Nah,
pause
it's
for
fine.
coffee?
It's fine. It's fine.
Someone
Let's
throw
keep
Sienna-
going.
someone throw Sienna-
Just throw me a napkin. I'll keep going.
Hold on. Here we go. We'll pause.
Thanks, Lauren.
Sorry, Warren, you're gonna have to edit that
what
back.
a time. Yep. I'm sorry. That's going to be really hard to edit, Warren. We're not going to be able to hide that cut. It's
That's
just going to
okay.
be obvious. Everybody's going to see me drop that coffee on my foot. It's fine. I'm old coffee foot now.
Bum, bum.
God damn it.
Slow-mo.
Yeah, I
Anyways,
think I need to cut a slow-mo of that.
we're back.
Great. Okay. I completely lost my place in my notes. Oh, yeah.
Me too.
European art house movie in English, hard
Oh
sell.
yeah. Hard to market.
Hard sell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even
Even
I mean,
now, a hard sell.
Yeah, because it's not what you would. It was wild to like figure out what this movie was from watching the
Yeah.
trailer, from reading the synopsis, to watching the film, to seeing any like who directed it, who
Yeah.
wrote it. Like
It's like
it does not make sense.
it's like an early A24 movie, but from 1981.
Yeah,
Almost, you
yeah.
know?
I feel like yeah. That's. I think if they go through on remaking this, I think it
Mhm.
will do really fucking well.
It should.
Yeah. Or I'm gonna pop.
It should. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's so interesting though. Like
Yeah.
it was so ahead of its time.
Yeah, truly.
So I think that part of why this film really didn't do well with critics at the time. It's so unique. It's so completely its own thing. It's really hard to kind of decide what set of standards to apply to this film because, like,
Sure.
what else can you compare it to say?
And it's like fucked up,
Mhm.
like deeply fucked
It's so
up,
fucked.
but also like there's not a lot of gore.
No,
there's
there's
not a lot
really
of like
not.
bad
There's-
language.
No,
I
there's
don't know,
not a
like
lot of kills. Like it's the monster is only on screen for like 2 scenes.
that's not even the fucked up part.
No, that's not the fucked up part. The fucked up part is like the family shit.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
and
it's
that's
their interactions is really
yeah,
hard to watch. and
It's
sit
scenes
through.
from a marriage with a
It is,
monster.
yeah,
But
yeah.
then it also ends with like the world getting bombed and like this kind of like weirdly atomic image. Like there's
Yeah.
so much going on in this movie.
Yeah.
It's again just impossible to kind of place. And so almost all the reviews in the press at the time were negative. Almost all of them.
Yeah.
I grabbed a pretty funny one, but particularly in American presses, it was just absolutely ripped to
I'm
shreds.
sure they were like, "Get the fuck out of my face."
Because again, all it is Isabelle Adjani screaming for 81 minutes.
God.
So here's a quote from Harry Hahn from the Daily News.
Poor Harry had no idea.
Truly. Adjani's prize-winning Mad Act is impossible to appraise because the film it's in is outlandishly unhinged as well. Just about any dialogue accompanying this mess would seem ludicrous, but writer-director Zhivovsky has really undone himself in the derisive laughs department.
What he could have just been like, "I don't like it."
Yeah. It's
You
a
know?
lot of words to say that.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically people found it funny. People didn't find it scary. People found it funny, like unintentionally funny, which again, not releasing the proper cut is gonna do that.
Yeah, 'cause I didn't find. I mean, it was like it was funny moments, but like once you got into like it's this very
Mhm.
expressive, like it's not. Those aren't grounded performances
No,
in that way.
you've
Like
just
it
gotta-
really is this expressionistic, like
Theatrical.
yeah.
It's really
The
theatrical.
flailing. I remember the
Mhm.
only time I laughed, but then I got it after
Mm.
was when they're in bed in the very fucking beginning,
Mhm.
and Samuel says something, and he's like, and he turns his head really dramatically. But then every
Mhm.
scene after, I was like, oh, that's what he's doing.
Yes,
That's the
yeah.
style. That's what I have
Yeah.
to like pay attention
And
to.
his character has this very like almost boyish quality.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
especially in his interactions with Heinrich, there's this
I
which
love their interactions.
what a
together.
character.
Heinrich
So
just
funny.
rolling on the wall
Heinrich
is
is
so funny.
uh,
Them just dancing and like I'm like kiss,
Truly-
just kiss, just
and
kiss.
Heinrich has such like pansexual monster energy. Like it's just
he's a menace.
yeah, he's like the kind of guy who's gonna fuck every single person in the friend group.
Oh yeah.
Like-
oh yeah, he has. He
yeah,
already.
he already has. He currently is.
You're all fighting amongst yourselves.
yeah,
now.
they're all
And
in.
he's just frolicking with his like coke problem
So true.
and his white linens with his mom.
Oh my god, what a character!
You fuck while she's here?
yeah.
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 I was like, okay, that's all I need to know.
Yeah, quite a mother-son dynamic in this film. Oh, here's the quote that I brought in. So Zhivovsky himself pretty much, at least according to him, if we believe him, predicted this critical reaction
Sure.
and said
Yeah.
in this later career interview that I found with him, he said that he told Adjani, quote, "I'll be persecuted for this film because it's rather graphic and people don't like to be brutalized and touched so much through the screen. But you will get all the possible acting awards." And he was right.
Yeah.
He was completely right.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man, I love that.
It's really satisfying,
Yeah, that
right?
is actually.
So people again have a really hard time classifying this movie. A lot of people in the
Sure.
press at the time compared it to Polanski's Repulsion, which is one I've recommended.
Oh right, yeah.
People have compared it to David Cronenberg's The Brood, but I also just think like something like The Brood is much more like balls to the wall horror
haven't
than
seen
this.
that one.
I think
Yeah.
it would be a great one to cover sometime, but a lot of very little of this movie actually lives in like outright horror space. It's like just on the
Oh,
doorstep of it
yeah.
almost, and that's part of what I
We
love
don't
so
fully
much.
get to walk in. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
The
To
4K
peek.
re-release done by Metrograph in 2021, not 22.
Okay. Still though,
Still,
really recent.
it really is only just kind of just the past decade or so finally starting to get reappreciated. And even so, not always with the respect I think it deserves. Like, I brought in a quote from Kim Newman, who's a scholar who called it a kitsch film, and basically says that it's fun, but, quote, the director encourages his stars to attack their roles with a kind of stylized hysteria rare outside of Japanese theater. To which I say, yeah, that's the point.
I was gonna say, yeah, I don't get why that would be like
that's not a bad
kitsch,
thing,
though.
Yeah,
Either, in that way, you know what I mean? It just feels very
I
like
agree. It's
I don't know. It's a dance. It just feels very
so
like
is, which I think is part of where this and Silent Hill are actually a really good pairing. Is they're both so much about like the horror of the physicality of these female bodies contorting in a way that's like really,
and like they're all represent. I mean, we kind of talked off camera how they're like all I think Trav said like Pyramid Head is like representation of guilt. So it's like they're all these representation of these very strong feelings from pain,
right?
And so in the same way, this movie is like expressing their pain through these bodies. It's almost like, I know there's like therapy, I forget what it's called, but there's like one where it's like trying to like release these things through your like body movements. I forget, there's like a specific one I'm trying to think of.
I know what you're talking about, but I can't think of the word.
Yeah, and so for me, that's what that felt like. And in the same way, Silent Hill kind of does the same thing.
Yeah.
So we really didn't.
It really works.
I was worried these would be so wildly different.
Me too.
That we'd be like, they're just different films, and that's fine.
Yeah,
but it is interesting.
The more I think they actually brought a lot out in each other for me, and like I almost enjoyed them more watching them together.
Yeah. Weird juxtaposition.
It is though getting like again. I just think that criticizing that theatricality is really just not. It's a lame place to come at as a film as a viewer, and I also think it's just kind of missing the point. Like, either you're on board for that or you're not.
For sure.
You can't criticize the film for successfully achieving something that you just don't like.
I always think that's wild when the critics do that, because I'm like, that was the goal.
That's the point. Yeah.
Sure.
You've got to judge it by its own standards.
Give me a real critique, please.
It is getting reappreciated, though. David Fear of Rolling Stone called the 4K re-release, quote, a body horror answer to Kramer versus Kramer.
Never seen Kramer versus Kramer, but that's fucking hilarious.
Incredible. Like, he's not wrong.
That's funny.
Now holds an 85% from critics and a 78% from audiences on Rotten Tomatoes.
Whoa.
So very, like, they're coming around. The tides are turning.
Yeah.
You'll see plenty of references to it now that you've watched it, because this is very much like a filmmaker's film and an actor's film.
Yep.
Like, it's something that people in the industry love and drool over possession, and so there's a lot of things that reference it. Like there's a Massive Attack video, Voodoo in My Blood, which does a whole homage to the subway scene with Rosamund Pike. Really? They like openly cite this as one of the references. Obviously this is one that Lily Rose Depp has been talking about a lot in interviews, as one she watched over and over again for Nosferatu. Yeah, so much sense. Well, and you know, she was also studying Buto, so you go back to Japanese theater, and it's like, I just think so much of this it was ahead of its time.
Yeah, because now she's been like praised so heavily for it, and
influencing so many other generations of actors, which I think is part of why this is such a like actors movie in particular, is because it lets the performers go to a place that you almost never see people access on film, that you only ever see in theater usually.
No, again, watching the facial expression, the body, like everything just felt so like I could just sit and watch this scene over, and it's like how the control and lack of control of their body, the really, control of the lack of control of their body was wild.
It really feels like body as instrument, you know? Like they have such control and then let go of such control of every single muscle in ways that are just you never get to see that.
Interpretive film.
Interpretive dance film. Yes. For both of these too. This is also one of the reasons why I think this film is being reappreciated a little bit more slowly than a lot of other horror from the same period, that I think is, I still think this film is better than a lot of things that are getting picked up faster, is that a lot of people have questions about its treatment of women. And so Lee Adams for Slash Film wrote, quote, one of the troubling aspects of Possession is figuring out whether it is a film about misogyny or just plain misogynistic. And so I wanted to bring that in as kind of like a film theory tiny desk of like, how do you feel about it?
That's so funny, because it was one of the things, because the only thing I knew going into this is you said
Mhm.
it's a good for her. And so the
Mhm.
whole time I was waiting, I was like, is she gonna kill him with the little meat thing? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And so I kept waiting for like, where's the good for her? Where's the good for her?
It's more of like it would have been good for her.
Yeah, and so but that made me think about like her treatment and the treatment of the women in this.
Mhm.
Wait, was the question,
Do
is
you
it just inherently misogynistic,
Yeah.
or was it intended to showcase?
Exactly. Yeah.
I think it was intended to showcase it. Personally,
Yeah.
I just can't imagine it was, with everything was so thought out, so intentional. I think he was battling with his own shit, and I think
Mhm.
it came out that I feel like they were portrayed to be that way. Like
Yeah.
the men were portrayed to be shitty because they were shitty. You know what I mean? 'Cause
Yeah.
it didn't feel like, I feel like if it was intended to be misogynistic, I wouldn't see her being such a strong character.
Agreed. And I also think
You
a
know what I
lot of
mean?
what people point to as like the source of the misogyny is that Isabelle Adjani plays this double role where she's also the school teacher who's like perfect and kind and like,
But
but to
I
me, sorry, go ahead.
no, you go.
That felt to me really unsettling and disturbing, and like she's either a figment of his imagination or like the whole point of her character is like this kind of your ideal perfect woman who's just silent and takes care of the kids is not the solution. Like
Mm,
that is a facade that always feels to me like something that was either created by the monster or created by his madness. Like I don't trust that she's real. I don't trust that there's anybody taking care of the kid when she's there. I don't
oh,
trust I don't trust
oh.
anything about her.
Interesting. I saw it as like, so because we see his and it came like full circle with like his doppel at the end
Mhm.
is like
Mhm.
these two doppelgangers of themselves,
Mhm.
kind of
Which again, very Silent
personified.
Hill.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
They, for me, they felt like their doppels were made and had this personification of who inherently they were. So inherently
I love that.
she was, and she like filled in all right. She was like,
Mhm.
or like maybe the personification of who they
Want to be.
truly wanted to be. So she
Mhm.
really wanted to be the perfect mom because
Mhm.
that woman would also read, and like the
Right.
mom never read.
Right.
And then what's his name was fucking violent.
Right.
Like his first things were acts. So I'm like, I wonder if he wanted,
He
because
wanted
every
to be
moment
the tough guy.
he
Yeah.
seemed like he was going to do something violent, and he didn't. So then
doesn't,
his
yeah.
doppel immediately does it. So like
Mhm.
I saw it as like who they actually, like either they wanted to be or
Mhm.
who they inherently were.
Or almost,
I don't
I
know.
almost feel like it can even be viewed as like their vision of what a man should be and what a woman should
Sure.
be. Like it almost
Yeah.
feels to me also like they're dealing with gender roles too
Sure,
and
sure.
wrestling with that, especially
Yeah.
because I don't know about you, but to me the monster always has felt like that's her sexuality and like her libido and like
Mhm.
her recognition of and acceptance of
Yeah.
like I want to
her, like-
have orgasms too.
Yeah,
And,
yeah,
like,
yeah. That's her like freedom, and
that's her
and,
sexual
yeah.
freedom.
Yeah.
And so it feels to me very much and I think that's a ballsy thing to portray in 1981. And B,
Yeah.
I don't think
So
portraying
upfront too.
Yeah.
To hold on her face during that.
100%. And I actually think that portraying that as monstrous, I don't find that misogynistic. I find that really fucking cool actually, because it's very much like we see sex scenes in this movie. None of them feel like they're like quote unquote for the male gaze or like to be hot. It feels like it's about her gaining power.
Because I feel like men would probably more likely, I think, probably not anyone that listens to this podcast, but like would be more likely to be horrified by that scene.
Exactly.
But also like Sam Neill's character, this glint in his eye and this like this slight upturn of his lip.
He's
and
almost turned on by it.
Yeah, he's like, I actually was expecting it to be like that's his freedom too, because even his interactions with Heinrich, I'm like, there's so much like suppression happening.
He like kind of seems like he wants to be cucked and just like
I
won't admit
think
it.
so.
Like,
I was like, oh, he's watching.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was
It's
yeah. Oh my, I don't even, I gotta sit with this movie. It was so cool.
Well, and so like
It
to
was
me,
so fucked up.
to me, where I land on that is kind of like I think it is very possible for a director to be misogynistic, and even for a director's intentions in making a film, perhaps to be misogynistic, and for the film itself to go past that, or achieve something more than that. Like sometimes the whole is greater than the parts, and this to me is very much a case where the whole is greater than the parts. And like Zhavovsky, probably a sexist asshole.
You can't look that hot and not be
Yeah.
a little bit of
Exactly.
Sorry.
It's so true. He's just
Can't
too
do
hot.
it.
You can't trust him. But I also kind of feel like,
But he seems like he's willing to explore that and also be like, yes, I am.
right. And also,
I don't know.
it's very, it's not hiding any negativity towards the men. Like, it's really
I was
hard on
gonna
the
say,
male
it
characters.
really, it actually made the men looked atrocious. They're bumbling.
Yeah.
They can't control their emotions. They're weepy. They're dramatic. And I actually feel like the women were the one holding it together.
Absolutely.
So
Like, even though Sam Neill is our perspective character, I'm rooting for her the whole time.
Oh,
and everybody I've ever talked to
abso-fucking-lutely.
about this movie is rooting for her the whole time.
Yeah.
And that's why I call it a good
and the
for
mom's
her
just
movie.
chilling.
Mom's just
Heinrich's mom
chilling.
just chilling.
Yeah, and
Yeah, so.
what's her name? The friend with the cast.
Margie or
Margie's
whatever,
just
something
chilling.
like that. Margie.
And and so to me, well, and I also just think there's a little piece of me that gets frustrated when you look at a film by a male director and are like, this whole film is misogynistic.
Right.
Because I also feel like in doing that to a film that has such a central female performance where she went so far and a female producer,
It's doing
it kind of is like you're overlooking the work that the
Yep,
women put
yep,
into the
no,
project.
That's
And like
what I
to
was
me,
saying, doing
I
a
see,
disservice to the
I
women
see,
on set.
I see so much Isabelle Adjani in this movie, and like I feel like that's probably part of why it was so hard for her, because she gives so much of herself to this film. But I think when so much of a film rests on the work of a really talented woman who goes all the way like that,
Just
I
to
think it's a
keep
little
it to
bit,
one man. And be
I
like,
think it's
"It
a
is
little
this
bit
because of him."
misogynist to be like, this whole film is misogynist.
Yeah,
just
you're
because one of the men
misogynistic for
working on
thinking
it
that.
is. Yeah, so
Yeah.
there you go.
No, I totally agree. It's just
Right?
like it pinpoints it on one dude, and it's like,
Exactly.
is the one dude the entire film? No, there's women that worked
film
on
is a
this and put work.
collaboration.
Absolutely.
And like it's always gonna be
So
more
suck
than
it,
just
hot misogynists, all you hot, sexy misogynists.
There you
out
go.
there with your
Mic
hot,
drop.
sexy mustaches. Get out of here.
So that's my mini rant
I'm with you.
corner.
I'm with you. Love.
I'm just looking through my watch notes to see if there's anything else that I wanna
God,
touch
everyone
on.
needs to go watch this immediately.
It's
Especially while it's like
so
accessible. I panicked when I searched. I would just say I searched on my Fire Stick. It did not show up. Go straight to Amazon Prime to watch
Mhm.
this.
Yeah,
Thank
watch
you,
it right
Siena.
now.
I asked.
Before,
I
before
panic
it
asked. I was like,
vanishes.
do I need to go get a DVD? Like, what the fuck?
Do I need to run over to Video Library?
Yeah. So, yeah.
I'll close out with a comment from my partner who, after I turned it off, turns to me and goes, "I think this is the kind of film that the German nihilists from Big Lebowski would make."
Oh my
like,
god.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it is.
Absolutely.
So if you
Yep.
feel like you want to watch something that the German nihilists from Big Lebowski would make,
It's amazing.
I
So
think
true.
it fits the bill. Yeah.
I give this just a 5. I'm gonna say that outright.
So glad.
But I gotta say the whole time I was like, what the fuck is
Yeah,
happening?
yeah.
But I
And to
didn't
me,
care.
that is such an achievement when you can like have absolutely no idea and you're just like,
Yeah,
I'm
you can
just
kinda
along
skate
for the
through it.
ride.
I was
Yeah.
just along for the ride.
I love that.
And it will stick. It will stick with me. One
Ugh.
day I will watch it again.
Mm-hmm.
And really absorb, like knowing. But I almost just think like I appreciate so much watching it for the first time.
It is
And
an
I'm sad I can't watch it for
experience.
the first time and not know what the fuck is going on. I'm kind of sad that that's over.
If it makes
for
you feel
me.
any better, watching it again this time,
Still
I
kinda-
still.
But it doesn't matter.
There's a lot of it that I didn't remember. Like, I remembered the visuals so clearly. I remembered very little of the plot. Like, I completely
Yeah.
forgot that there was a spy element. All I
Yeah.
remembered was that it's about a marriage falling apart, that Isabelle Adjani, like, cuts her neck, and the subway scene, and
Yeah.
the monster. And
Okay.
that's, like, all
The
that stuck
gist.
with me.
Yeah. It's wild.
Yeah. So,
Thanks for this. This
watch
was fun.
it, please. I love this movie so much.
Yeah.
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 Our next episode is going to be a little bit lighter.
It is going to be a little bit lighter. Well, it's
Yeah.
also quick shout out. By the time you're hearing this, yes. By the time you're hearing this, I'll have finally actually officially wrapped on my film. So
yes, everyone
so
congratulations, Siena.
in advance,
Congratulations, future Siena.
I can't wait for all the sleep that I'm gonna get on the other side.
Yeah.
But we're gonna have like a nice little kind of light Valentine's episode
We said
because of
Valentine's
that.
Gay is
Valentine's
what you said.
Gay, yeah,
Yeah.
our little Valentine's Gay episode. So I'm going to cover 2016's The Love Witch.
And again, we found it hard to pair because that one's so aesthetic. I can't remember. It's 80.
I want to say 81.
81 potentially, but we're doing, or I'm doing Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, because I feel like two like hot baddies.
Yeah, it's and I feel like they're very much in conversation.
I think
those
they
two
will
are
be
in conversation.
Yeah, so it'll be light, fun. I don't know if I've fully watched Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, but I Tumblred the shit out of that movie.
I've
and
seen so
Love
many
Witch
stills.
too. I probably would. Yeah, I'm excited to watch these. So
I think the Love Witch is going to be Al's whole personality.
And we're
playing it.
We're playing
on
it.
the 27th.
Yeah, we're playing Love Witch on the big screen. So I think
just
for one
night only. So come out.
Tickets on sale now.
Special engagement. Come out and see that.
Yeah. So,
it's one to see on the big screen.
Yeah. So tickets on sale. JeanCocteauCinema.com. And
I think that's all our things. Yeah, look at that. Thanks to Warren, our wonderful podcast producer, who's been chuckling more than usual this episode, which makes me feel great. Thanks to Travis, who's also been chuckling in the background over there and fact checking away for us.
Yep.
Thanks
you, Theo.
Thanks to Theo from afar. We love your music.
We love your work.
We love your work. We're big fans. Can you all see how sleep deprived I am?
Yeah. Thanks, Siena, for hanging in there, and for you all for hanging in there too.
For hanging in there with me.
I was gonna say, follow us on social media at Splice Splatter Pod. We're currently still on TikTok.
We're on TikTok for the time being.
We might move to some other things, so just check our link tree in the bio of all of our things. We're on YouTube, so if you want to watch Siena, if we cut it out, maybe spill coffee on themselves. Otherwise, thanks for listening to Splice Splatter.
The film podcast presented by the Jean Cocteau Cinema in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where classic horror.
And
until next time,
we'll be right back.